Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Betrayed and Became the Wolf Dragon God Elemental Demon movie. Before we start, please go support NormaElementruWolf for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Sekiryuutei was a young man who wasn't loved by anyone, not by his parents, his siblings, his classmates, or his fellow students, and certainly not by the supernatural world. To them, he was useless, lacking any sacred weapons created by the biblical god. For a long time, Issei had been in love with the Gremory sisters and other girls, but they rejected him. To everyone, he was just a useless being who shouldn't exist, and they went to his brother Rias. Then one day, he brought them a video of the supposed betrayal of the brown-haired boy, and they imprisoned him in Tartarus. He was tortured by everyone for 3 years and experimented on, unaware that in doing so, he had released a seal placed upon him by the biblical god long ago, because something important was about to happen. Part 1 Prologue: The beginning before everything. The biblical god who created heaven, earth, and everything else was going to create one of his first creations. He thought of an angel, but at the same time, he didn't, since he decided to see the future before it happened and see who his first creation and successor would be. But when he saw that it would be a mixture of several races, he was surprised, and even more so when he saw that this would be his most powerful son, with a power that would terrify everyone and have no equal rival. But he watched as he died in the final faction war, but before that, he sealed away the powers of his most beloved creation, turning him into a normal soul who would be born and live as a human. But he saw the tragedy he would endure simply for not having one of his creations. He was disappointed in the people who were his son's family and how they mistreated him every day of his life. He saw how the entire supernatural world hated his son. He didn't like that, but he was disappointed in all his children for doing this to such a pure soul who had always helped them. And from those who betrayed him the most, he hadn't expected the betrayal outside of Los Angeles. Undoubtedly, God regretted that he would leave his position to Michael and how he would allow the system of heaven to be contaminated by sin. What would happen in the future? Especially seeing that they had sent his creation to Tartarus, he saw every horrible and inhuman torture they inflicted on him, and he was surprised that his son would finally awaken his true self and humiliate AI and annihilate his enemies who caused his unjust imprisonment. And that those who betrayed him would suffer for their greatest mistake, and that he would be the one who ruled both on earth and in heaven and in the supernatural world. God could not believe what he saw. He only wept for what would happen to his firstborn son and all that he would have to endure, and what hurt him most was that he could not help him since he would die before all this happened. He only hoped that his son would find happiness someday, although he knew that would take a long time. So God began to create, using almost all his power to create his first son. He nearly fainted from exhaustion, but then he saw a small boy, about 3 years old, with hair as red as blood, though it seemed to glow like fire. His eyes were the same color as his hair, and he had wolf ears and a tail, and angel wings. It might sound like a joke, but he had more than 20 pairs of wings. The boy wondered something and said, "Who are you and who am I and where am I?" God picked up the child and hugged him with all the love of a father to his son. "I am your father God and you are my son and you are Issei, and this is your home, heaven. Now let's go, my little one, I have much to teach you so that you can be a great person." The little boy said, "Yes, father, I will be just as strong and wise as you," he said happily. "That's how my little one will be." Thus the years passed, and God trained Issei. When the day came for him to disappear, God didn't tell him that upon his death, Issei's powers would be sealed and he would become human. It wasn't the right time for him to know. The angels already knew of Issei's existence, though not his name, as God hadn't revealed it to avoid causing too much of a stir. Issei got along well with his angel brothers, although he didn't like it when Lucifer left. Because he wanted more power to prove that he was stronger than everyone and for his purposes, although Issei was part of all the races, he didn't have the weaknesses of each one like the demons or the fallen angels. He only had a slight appearance, but nothing more. To fast forward a bit, this goes back to the death of God against Lucifer, since Issei was one of God's swords, like a kind of will, similar to the Valkyries. But when God saw that what he had foreseen was coming to pass, he simply told Issei to forgive him and that he hoped he would be happy someday and not blame himself for this. Lucifer didn't understand what his father meant by his older brother, but he saw lights flash, and the sword that was Issei became a red and black sphere with a wide aura and disappeared into thin air. Only the final attack they exchanged could be seen. The two of them died after the war. The angels thought that their father and older brother had died. Centuries had passed since the factional wars, and no one knew or remembered the most powerful son of God until the new generations. They thought he was a legend or an invention, since no one can be half Tokai, wolf, angel, fallen angel, demon, and elemental dragon at the same time. That would be absurd. Our protagonist was born human, just as his father saw him. He was the middle child, since his brother was Ryuutei, then came him, then Yuutei, then Anayutei, Alice Yotei, and Alyssa Yotei. His parents were Goryutei and Miki Yotei. Everything was more or less perfect until the arrival of a red-haired girl and a black-haired girl with glasses. So, Rias Gremory and Sona Citri met the children in a park and became friends. A few weeks later, they told them that their clans were demons and that they possessed evil pieces and sacred gears. The other children all had them, except for Issei. Ryu had Drag, the Red Emperor, and Issei had Tiamat, the Dragon Queen of Chaos. Two of his sisters had magical swords of the elements of fire and light, and they were very powerful. His younger sister had a primal filled with powerful spells. But when they asked if Issei had a sacred gear, Rias said he didn't. She said it in a cold and unpleasant way, as did Sona. His whole family looked at him with hatred and disgust, and from that day on, nothing would be the same. Issei was always forgotten. People spoke ill of him, and his siblings humiliated him both at home and at school. They spread rumors that he was a pervert, that he smoked, that he was a delinquent, and that he did bad things to his sisters when his parents and Ryu weren't around. So everyone beat up Issei, insulted him, and humiliated him. Issei told them it was all lies, but nobody believed him. Why would they believe a useless person like him and not the best students in the school, who were also the most popular? His brothers, though intelligent, it was all just a farce. Since Issei is the smartest, surpassing Sona, who is the smartest girl in the school, his siblings always steal his credit for homework and assignments. The teachers also believed the rumors and always failed him or said he copied from his siblings. Sometimes the teachers even let them beat him up before or after class, which was worse because he trusted someone he never expected to betray him. His friend and teacher, Isabella. She used to be a famous model and decided to become a teacher to relax a bit from her modeling career, since she also enjoyed teaching. She always tended to his wounds and was his friend and teacher. But one day, everything changed when she showed her true colors. Flashback. The chestnut-haired boy lay on the ground, bleeding slightly, with numerous wounds, none too serious, but painful nonetheless. His classmates were kicking him as he looked at a beautiful woman with purple hair, his teacher and friend, pleading for her help. But when he approached her, she simply slapped and kicked him, along with everyone else, mocking his misfortune. He asked, "Isabella-sensei, why what am I doing?" "Isabella. You want to know why I can't stand you anymore? You're just a piece of trash to everyone, Issei. I only pretend to be your friend to get closer to your brother Ryu. Besides, why can't you be like the intelligent, handsome, strong, and much better person and man you are? You're just a pervert and trash that nobody wants." Issei was hurt by the words of the person he thought he could trust. His heart broke even more than it already was. When he lifted his head, all he saw were her lifeless eyes, like those of a dead man. For a moment, she was frightened and her chest ached for some reason, but then she ignored it and left, leaving the brunette lying there. Issei's siblings and some others were in the Gremory and Citri groups, and Issei, because he was forced into Ria's entourage, did everything they asked of him. In fact, they forced him to do contracts until almost 3 AM in every battle. They were always the highest rated gamers, always the ones who defeated the enemies, but his strategies and achievements were stolen by his siblings, and even the entire supernatural world looked up to the arrogant ones as their heroes, while Issei was seen as useless or a burden. One day, a video surfaced that portrayed him as a traitor working for the Chaos Brigade. They set a trap for him, captured him, and showed him the video. He defended himself, claiming it was fake, but they didn't believe him. They thought he betrayed them out of envy, just like his brothers. Thus began the torture for the brown-haired boy. They beat him, cut him, burned him, humiliated him, insulted him, spat on him, kicked him, and many other horrible things. They even showed him videos of girls kissing his brother and going on dates, and everything else that broke his heart. Even the gods and leaders used him as a toy to relieve some of their stress. Azel and Ajuka experimented on him in horrifying ways until they caused his brain to break and his DNA to be modified, giving him the DNA of more races. This caused him to lose his true semi-human form. He could only exist in his beast form, a red and black wolf with a cold, savage gaze full of hatred and suffering, wearing a silver collar. Her neck looked like this. This is how Issei looked now, but ever since the brown-haired boy was trained 3 years ago, things hadn't been going well for the factions, as the Chaos Brigade kept attacking them. And today it would be even worse, since Rizabin Lucifer, descendant of the original Lucifer and leader of the Chaos Brigade, released 666, known as the Beast of the Apocalypse, that is, the fearsome Trihexa. The entire battlefield was a disaster. All the allies and warriors from both factions were exhausted and wounded, facing their imminent end. Until Rizabin started laughing like crazy, everyone wondered what was wrong with him until he said, "Rizabin. Ha 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 ha, without a doubt, the factions are the biggest idiots I've ever seen." "Auden. What do you mean, you bastard?" "Rizabin. What I mean is about Issei and Yotei, they made a mistake," he said, still laughing. "Searches. What does that useless traitor suffering in Tartarus have to do with this? He had a bad feeling about it. Rizabin. The thing is, he was never a traitor. The traitor was always right in front of you and he was the one who gave you the proof that he was guilty. You can stop pretending now, Kyo-kun. A white-haired demon finally said, Rizabin-sama, I can't stand being with these insects anymore, especially how Issei puts up with them, always talking about themselves. I'm almost going crazy with all this stupidity. Everyone there couldn't believe it, the leaders, the girls and the Yodui family who had accepted him as Issei's replacement. But things were about to get much worse. Rizabin. I also have other secrets to tell you. Do you think Kakabiel, Loki and the others and I would be defeated by useless fools like the Yodui brothers? They're so stupid and weak that they had to steal credit from their brother Issei to gain fame and popularity. If you're wondering why we did it, it was to get the boy out of our way, since his strategic ability was very dangerous to my plans. That's why I eliminated him. Although I show you this, and Rizabin revealed all the memories of the chestnut-haired boy that an undercover guard extracted from him when he visited him some time ago, and everyone saw Issei's life and all his achievements, the battles he won, the strategies he planned, and the enemies he defeated, his brothers took it all away and left him incapacitated when he was injured in order to steal the credit for what the chestnut-haired boy did. And that all the dates, gifts and letters were made by Issei for the girls, and Ryu stole everything, sometimes leaving Issei half dead to take them back. They saw that the rumors about him being a pervert were made up by his brothers and that Ryu only saw the girls as pieces of meat. Gabriel saw his heart and only saw evil, lust, pride and superiority and she started to cry because what Rizabin had shown them about Ryu was true. Seeing her cry, everyone realized that Rizabin had told the truth. Rizabin. Besides the Tridza being my weapon, Issei-kun will also be one. Everyone was surprised by that, since why would I want a human? Although Issei was more than just an ordinary human. Basil. Why do you want Issei or Rizabin? Rizabin. Why didn't I want the firstborn son of the biblical god, his most precious and perfect creation, the older brother of my father Lucifer, the eldest brother of all the angels of heaven, and the heir to both heaven and earth and the supernatural world? The biblical god created him as the perfect embodiment of all races, though I didn't expect him to be sealed and born as a human. But thanks to you, the seal was broken. Because of you, I can't use him as a soldier, but I can use him as my guardian pet, or rather, guardian wolf. Leaders, haven't you seen what you've turned him into? Well, look. His fur was black from burns that had healed, but the dirt remained. Everyone was surprised to see that he was a wolf with dragon wings, chained to a cell, and with a hateful look in his eyes. Everyone couldn't believe what they had done to their hero, especially Los Angeles, since they thought his brother had died with his father. But what he received was that he found a pentagram on a parchment he left in one of his old books. But Rias, crying, said, Don't let me be separated from you, Issei Rizabin. Rizabin. You think you can stop me from having the most powerful being in the supernatural world as my weapon and pet before I kill him? The Tridza will pass through him, but I'll test if he's as strong as he claims to be. But if he's not, I'll easily get rid of that flea-ridden sack. Everyone saw the Trihexa approaching Tartarus and especially the prison where Issei was. They all saw it destroy the wall where the former brunette was and they were all watching this through a magic circle created by Rizabin. But just as the Trihexa was about to crush him, they heard the wolf speak. Issei. Now don't bother me, lizard, unless you want me to tear you to pieces. I'm not in the mood to see your ugly face and I can't get a second rest in this damn prison. Good thing I almost killed those useless guards. As he was about to lie down to sleep on the cold floor of his cell, the Tridraz was about to eat him when the wolf's tail hit him in the face, sending him flying out of the prison. Until the wolf said, flames of purgatory, judgment of the sinner, and spat out a black and white spurt that burned the Tridza to ashes. Everyone was speechless, certain that with just 2 attacks, the Tridza Maria Sesto was unimaginable. Then they saw the wolf standing in front of Rizabin, having grown to a gigantic size. Well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next part of this story. Part 2. The Nightmare of a Lucifer and the Repentance of the Traitors. When Rizabin saw a wolf that was 20 times bigger than the Tridza, he almost jumped on it. Issei. You think I didn't hear you, scum? So, because of you, I'm like this now. You'll pay for this. You'll feel the same pain these bastards inflicted on me. You're just like your father, always wanting power and to dominate everything. Too bad this will be your grave. If you find him in the afterlife, tell him he'll pay for taking my father away and that I'll punish him with my own claws. You won't get away with it either. But Rizabin's pride wouldn't allow it. He hesitated before the wolf in front of him and launched a fire magic attack. When it hit the wolf in the face, he saw that it didn't even scratch it. Issei. That was your best attack, it only tickled me, and that annoys me. Everyone saw how his eyes glowed red and that he saw a kind of red light on his chest that looked like a scary face like the ones made on pumpkins, and he had an evil smile, that's what he looked like. Rizabun was as if in a daze, but then he started screaming and writhing, begging her to stop, saying it was unbearable. Everyone was frightened to see him like that and wondered what she had shown him to make him react like that, but he said. Issei. That's right, suffer, feel my pain. You're feeling what I've felt my whole life and feel what I suffered when I was locked up and even more so combined with your worst fears, hahaha. Seeing your suffering is a pleasure for me. When his eyes stopped shining, Rizabun returned to normal. And he wanted to attack Issei, but everyone watched in fear as Issei moved at incredible speeds with Rizabun, who grabbed him with his snout and began to bite, toss, and catch him as if he were a chew toy. When Lucifer managed to break free from the wolf's teeth and fangs, he tried to attack him from behind, but he saw his tail split into different parts and the tails began to pull and release him to different places. When he wrapped his tail around him again, they saw him start to run, while the tail that held him began to throw him at tremendous speed and with great force. When he threw Lucifer, he hit a mountain, shattering it. But when Rizabun saw the wolf approaching, Lucifer felt fear for his life as he couldn't believe the bestial strength he possessed. He felt almost his entire body being torn apart. He couldn't believe he had been used like a dog's toy in this case, a wolf's toy. But as all toys know their end in being torn to pieces, everyone saw marks appear and his fur was streaked with red and then they heard him say some kind of incantation and he said. Issei. With this attack you will be exterminated, Rizabun Lucifer. Last words. Rizabun. Damned but filthy, I can't believe that I, the great Rizabun, was defeated by a giant dog. I hope you go to hell. I curse you. Issei was annoyed because nobody dared to call him anymore, but. Issei. You've annoyed me. I was going to kill you in one fell swoop with my claws so you would suffer more, but I will give you a legendary death. Remember that well. I am the wolf god, fallen archangel, demon, and elemental dragon, so prepare to die, Rizabun. For today, this is your end. Issei. Volcanic meteor collision, Terranova collision, volcanic hell annihilation. Everyone watched in fear and horror as the earth trembled and tons of red objects appeared like meteorites, with fire like lava, violently swirling around it like suns. The attack was launched. When the attack hit, Rizabun's body could be seen, charred beyond recognition. But they saw the wolf step on it with a paw and the body turned to ash that disappeared. As the wolf shrank to the size of a tiger when they tried to approach, they saw it disappear, but it reappeared in its den and was rescued to continue its nap, having gotten rid of many vermin in one afternoon, since Rias's army bore the brunt of the wolf's final attack. The factions couldn't believe the power Issei possessed, and with all the revelations that had occurred that day, they definitely needed to hold a meeting to discuss everything that had happened. A week after some of the battle damage was repaired, all the faction leaders could be seen in the meeting room. Searches, leader of the demons. Azazel, leader of the fallen. Michael, leader of the angels. Yusaka, leader of the Yokai, with her daughter Kunu. Zeus of the Olympians. Odin, leader of Asgard. Hisanabi, leader of the Japanese gods. Shiva, leader of the Hindus. Ra, leader of the Egyptians. And other gods from other mythologies. Rias and Search's parents, the Citri and Gremory clans, and Valerie's team were also present, as well as other leaders from the supernatural world, including Tannen and Apis. They had to talk about what happened last week because they still couldn't believe everything Rizabun had told them. They had to use a mind spell to see the Yodui's memories and they saw what Rizabun had said was true. They were stealing all the credit from Issei and were always the first to fall in battle. The leaders initially wanted to punish them for the lies they had told them all this time. Searches. What are we going to do about Issei-kun? I still can't believe he's the firstborn son of the biblical god. Michael. Me neither, since I didn't expect father to seal him away and I thought he had died along with father. Although I'm very sorry for what we did to him, I don't think he'll forgive us. Besides, we have to get him out of Tartarus. There's no point in him being there if he's innocent. Azazel. Since the pillars are false, how about we make the new pillar of factions? Rias. By asking what Rizabun meant when he said Issei is the first son of the biblical god. Michael. I'll answer that, although for you new generations the legend has been forgotten as if he never existed, since no one believed he was a son of father because of his appearance, since he was created first, before all of us. He is the one Lucifer wanted to surpass, that's why he left heaven, because he wanted more power, and because he liked being very competitive with him, since my brother had the ability of the Valkyries, the will. Ross. But isn't it supposed to be impossible for someone other than a Valkyrie to do that? Michael. No, because he could, his will with his father was the most powerful. He and Excalibur together were the most powerful weapon in the entire supernatural world, since he had a lot of hidden abilities that would make the techniques of swordsmen seem like novices. The sword's full name was Excalibur of the Heavenly Fang, and he is also the heir to both Earth and Heaven, and even the supernatural world, since they saw that he has the power to kill the Tridras. When he is the sword, his power decreases depending on how much power his owner wants to draw upon. Also, he can control the other Long-Ina swords on his own without getting tired or sweating. That left everyone shocked. They couldn't believe how powerful Issei was, or what he always was. Azazel. But do you know anything about the old man? I know his powers and he turned him into a human. If he was able to win the war of the factions with him, the strange crow said doubtfully. Michael. We found something strange in the sky. Auden. And what was it that you found? Michael. When Issei awakened his powers, Father's room opened up even more than where we found his diary, which revealed everything about how he created Issei using all his power and the things he taught him about mastering his own abilities. It explained the reason why he created him this way, since Issei would be his successor and would be the one to maintain order in both the supernatural and human worlds. Furthermore, he saw the future of everything that was to come and did nothing, knowing that it all had to happen. Even though it pained him deeply, he continued to spend time with Issei and prepare him for the day of war. With what little energy he had left, Father sealed Issei and made him human. Rias. But why didn't I feel his power when we were children? Be real. I believe it was because his power state was immense, and even though you were a high-class demon, you were initially too weak to sense his power, which was comparable to Father's. To sense it, you had to concentrate for a longer period of time, but since you didn't, you thought he was just a simple human. Tibba. But how did he manage to awaken his power and break the seal, and when did he do it? Auden. I believe that to break it, he had to experience many negative emotions, as well as feel firsthand the true nature of each of the races he represents. I also believe he unleashed his power when Azazel and Ajuka experimented on him in different ways, since I think one of the DNAs had to awaken its true blood, although I don't know which one it was. Azazel. Don't you think it should have been the wolf yokai form? Since, as the old man's diary says, he created it as a wolf, and I think that's what awakened his power. Auden. Well, it's clear how he was created and all that, but the other point we'll make regarding the lying brats we have here, he said seriously. Searches. First, I want to ask Drag and Tiadma a few questions. The dragon gauntlets emerged from Ryu and Issei's arms. Drag. What are your questions, Gremory? Searches. First question, did you know the truth about your holders and everything they did to Issei? Drag. Well, we knew it. We told these idiots more than 1,000 times that the boy didn't deserve that one day they would pay for what they did to him. Gabriel. People knew, why didn't they ever say anything? We should have stopped everything before it got too late. He said this crying, regretting hurting such a pure soul, especially since it was his older brother who missed him so much. Diadma. So that they wouldn't have believed us anyway, and the boy would have suffered even more. Besides, these idiots put a seal on us, saying we were envious of communicating with you. Besides, we already knew that he was the son of God. Searches. Since when did they know and why didn't they say anything? He said this seriously and angrily because of the amount of lies and secrets being revealed. Drag. At first it was difficult for us because of the Seo, also because it was a lot of hidden power, and 3 of them wouldn't have believed us and would have hurt the boy more. Furthermore, it's clear they're paying the price for their actions, seeing how the girls were emaciated with porous eyes from crying so much and everything else that's happening. Drag. They've also heard something about him in prison. Searches. I have tried to get the guards to release him and bring him to the castle, but it always goes wrong. They repaired his cell, and the guards are sorry for how they treated him. They've tried to treat him well, but it ends with some of them nearly dead or in the hospital with serious injuries. He refuses to eat the food. They've tried to feed him the food the chefs prepare as an apology for everything they did to him, but he refuses to eat it, throws it in their faces, or says he won't eat anything that might harm or poison him. They look at him with suspicion, even checking him to see if they've put something in him. They've even tried to make his stay more comfortable, but he rejects everything and kicks all the guards out. Even when they try to touch him and check that he's alright, he keeps saying he'd rather be dead than let them touch him. Everyone lowered their heads at what the Retid said. Well, the meeting ended in a week. I'll personally go pick up Issei-kun. Who else will accompany me? Michael, Azazel, and Auden raised their hands. The rest of you can receive us at the castle. Part 3. The regret of an academy and the mistakes of a family. After the faction meeting, everyone went home. Searches told the girls that they had to tell the truth at the academy regarding the so-called rumors about the brunette. They nodded, still very sad about what had happened a few days before. Back at the academy, 3 days had passed since the occult club revealed the truth regarding the rumors about the chestnut-haired boy. Since he left 3 years ago, instead of being resolved, certain problems continued to escalate. And academic performance, like the competitions between institutions in Asia to see which academies were the best in the world, Kuo Academy had won several times, thanks to the chestnut-haired boy. Although Ryu always steals the credit, when the academy and the students thought that without Issei supposedly getting in the way they would win faster by having his brothers, they unfortunately lost spectacularly because, trusting the Yodui brothers too much, they kept letting them answer the questions. Although it went badly since they lost the competition, everyone wondered how it happened, since they were the most intelligent in the academy. It wasn't possible that they failed. Even their grades had dropped because they were stealing Issei's homework, which is why they had the best grades. The following year was the same. They lost because they thought it was due to the stress and tiredness that caused them to lose the first time. It's a shame for these fools who have brains the size of a nut. When they lost for the second time in a row, they were starting to doubt whether they were the best or not, but with the confidence they displayed, it was hard not to believe them. When they lost again 3 times, everyone didn't know whether to trust them, since they had only shown that they weren't as intelligent as they claimed to be. And when the occult girls told the truth that Issei's rumors were lies invented by Ryu and his sisters, at first they didn't want to believe them, but they knew that since the brunette left everything was worse than before, and they couldn't deny it, since the brunette sisters had to confirm what was said, even asking the director for the security camera footage from certain parts of the academy. He agreed because he'd never seen those parts. They were the quietest, so he didn't need to watch the cameras. But they saw that what they were saying was true. They saw Ryu mocking them behind their backs, saying they were so stupid for believing someone without proof. They also said the rumors were made up because they wanted to be the popular kids at the academy. And what's more, the girls his brother was always friends with or liked were idiots for believing everything they said about him and for replacing him with him, and the teachers were idiots for thinking he did all those boring assignments because he always stole them from Issei, copied them, or threatened to hit him if he didn't do the homework. No one could believe what they had seen. The women were crying after hearing the truths Ryu spoke in the video. The man would regret hitting the brunette for nothing, for it being his fault, and for leaving him seriously injured. The teachers would regret hitting and ignoring their star student and not realizing that he was the intelligent one, not his brothers, and that he was the one winning the competitions, not his brothers. The one who felt the worst was Isabella, since she couldn't believe everything she had done to her student and friend. She felt dirty. Like the worst person, remembering when she said those mean and hurtful things to Issei, using him to be close to his brother, and seeing the look on his face broke her heart. She remembered when other boys and teachers looked at her for her body, but the brunette looked at her like a normal person. Since she was a dragon, she knew from what the girls had told her about Issei's true nature and his innocence as a traitor. She also knew who was truly responsible for the video, and, moreover, that all the battles and enemies belonged to Issei, not his brothers. When she saw all the evidence, it broke her heart and soul even more because of everything he had done to the brown-haired boy. She just wanted her student back. And my friend returned and wanted to beg his forgiveness, not caring that he also wanted to make amends for everything he did to him, and when he found him, he would ask for forgiveness for everything and marry him and have many children. The girls who had been involved with the brunette wanted to apologize to him and be his girlfriend, as they remembered the good things he had done for them and how they had despised and judged him for nothing. The teachers regretted what they did to him and only hoped he would return to the academy and apologize to them, since they had fixed his grades and seen that he surpassed Sona in intelligence and that he always provided help and support in class, while they only punished him for nothing or let the students beat him up in class and gave him so much homework that it would be impossible to finish overnight. Since those days, the academy has been very listless and sad, devoid of any joy, as no one could bear to face each other knowing what they had done to an innocent person. Issei's classmates removed the desk where they always wrote insults, jokes, threats, and other hurtful things on him and replaced it with a new one, hoping their classmate would return so they could apologize to him and start over and be friends. Even though they always did bad things to the brown-haired boy, he always helped them, showing them his smile as if he were an angel, regardless of the fact that they never thanked him for his help or the contempt they showed him. The kendo girls couldn't look at their wooden swords because they remembered when Ryu told them he saw the brown-haired boy spying on them in the locker rooms and they beat him mercilessly without even having proof if what he said was true. They remembered when they brought real swords and when they saw him in the academy courtyard, they just took the opportunity to attack him and leave him badly injured and almost dead. All they could see was the image of the brown-haired boy suffering because of them and seeing his blood on their swords. This only made them feel more remorseful, since he confessed his feelings to several of them, almost all of them, in fact, but every time he did, they rejected him in the worst way, breaking the gifts he was going to give them and laughing at the idea that someone like him could be with them. They just wanted to go back to the past, and if he asked them again, they would agree to go out with him. But they saw that was impossible. They just had to wait for him to appear and ask for forgiveness, and maybe one of them would become his partner. But the Yodui family, ever since the parents learned the truth, they respected that Issei was never a traitor, and that it was all Rizaban's fault, and the truth behind the rumors invented by his other children, and that he always had gear blood, and that he was the son of the biblical God, and that God took his powers and made him be born as a human, and that he wasn't God's son. He was only placed in his ex-mother's womb so that he would be born as a human and be safe from the faction war, since God didn't want his son to die with him, and that he had the power to make even the strongest in the supernatural world faint, and that he killed Rizaban and his army, and especially Trihexa. The two adults couldn't believe it. What's more, he always did the housework, not his brothers, like helping them clean, making breakfast, and everything else. The times he supposedly got into trouble were just made up by his sons to punish him for nothing. And the last time his son said he'd stolen money, it was actually Ryu, who wanted to buy some things and blamed Issei for it. The parents were devastated by how they'd treated their son. They knew they'd regret it. They tried to remember something good they'd done for Issei. But they didn't see anything. They also thought about some happy moment they had spent with him, but when they looked at some photos, they didn't find any pictures of him. There were only photos of him when he was 5 years old. That means they neglected their 12-year-old son. Without a doubt, they were the worst parents in the world, since there were only photos of their other children happy, enjoying time with their families, but the little brunette wasn't in any of them, as if he didn't exist. When the mother couldn't bear it any longer, she went to the chestnut-haired boy's room and was horrified and worried. The room was colorless, gray. It was assumed a young man lived there, while the other children's rooms had everything. The chestnut-haired boy's room only contained things that were about to fall apart from age and wear. He barely had the bare necessities. The mother realized she had never given her son anything, and that room, which resembled a cell, was proof of that. She only remembered the times they had entered just to scold or hit him for things he hadn't done. The woman could only lie on the bed crying, trying to feel her son's warmth. The daughters wanted to comfort their mother because they couldn't bear to see her like that. But they couldn't do anything because it would only make things worse. Their father, just seeing the room, felt the same as his wife. When the man saw a book on the shelf in the room, he picked it up and saw that it was. When he read Issei's diary, all he could do was cry harder and clench his fists in frustration. The diary described everything they had done to Issei, and even though he suffered, he always loved them until the day of the betrayal. They saw his emptiness, his sadness, and his hatred. All the man could do was stand there crying with his head down. The brown-haired boy was like an angel in their lives, and they themselves had only made him suffer and killed the angel who was a gift from God. The man went to sit on the bed where his wife was, to hug her, and the two of them comforted each other. Part 4. Brothers' Repentance and the Liberation of a Wolf. We find ourselves in the room of 4 Yodui sisters. After their parents vented their frustrations in Issei's room, Rias and Akeno went in to look for something that would give them a glimpse of him. They found one of his diaries, which revealed what attracted him to them, the poems he wanted to recite to them, and how he lovingly recounted the dates he had planned and the times he helped them. He said that what he liked most about them wasn't their bodies, but their laughter and smiles, the most beautiful he had ever seen. The two girls could only cry more when they read all that, especially the last part. When they sat on the bed, they saw a box that said, in case he died or something happened to him, or if they decided to find out about him, and if they saw this when they opened the box, there was a necklace with a diamond in the shape of a red heart on a silver chain, and there were others of many sizes with different charms. There was also a card saying that he was going to give them to each of them on their respective birthdays, since they remembered seeing them in a store and wanting to buy them, but they were very expensive because he had spent his money on them. They so scorned her thoughtful gestures and gifts that Rias, for being so foolish, only let out a scream and fell to her knees, clutching the necklace and the diary of the chestnut-haired boy. When the others entered, drawn by the scream and seeing the redeed in that state, the only one who responded was Akeno, who could barely stand without bursting into tears, clutching the necklace that was meant for her. Ryu wanted to approach Rias and comfort her. But the redeed launched an attack on the boy, causing him to crash into the wall. Rias, don't you ever come near me again. This is all your fault and theirs, pointing at the others. Issei. But Rias-chan, we didn't want this to happen. Rias. So what did they want with lying to us about Issei? They didn't say anything until she screamed and scared the people in the room. Speak up, damn it. Why did you do that to us by lying to us? Alice. It was because we didn't want any girl near him, that's why we listened to Ryu and ruined his life, since we didn't like him being with any girl, that's why. Irina. How can you be like that? He had the right to be happy. You didn't have to interfere in his personal life because of your selfishness. I could have been with him, but you, with your rumors, brainwashed me into thinking he was useless, and he wasn't. Rias. Go away, we don't want to see you now, you've done enough. Anna. But no, we don't. Girls. You set out, they said, releasing their auras that frightened the Yodui brothers, and they went to their rooms. The girls started crying, remembering how when they were scared, their brother would calm them down, sing to them, hug them, and always tell them that they would always be together. They only felt worse for everything their brother did for them and how they had rejected him for nothing. Issei. Please, Tiadma, talk to me. You haven't spoken to me in almost 2 weeks. I need to talk to someone who doesn't hate me. My sisters and I are devastated. Everyone at the academy hates us. Our clans hate us too. My parents barely even want to forgive us. The entire supernatural world hates us. Tiadma. What do you want me to say, partner? This is all your fault. How many times have I told you to stop, you and your sisters? Your brother doesn't understand unless he's beaten. Drag, and I told them that the boy didn't deserve that treatment and that you'll regret everything you did to him. Issei. But we didn't mean to hurt him, we just didn't want him to be with any other girl so they wouldn't hurt him and separate him from us. Tiadma. And you think hitting and humiliating him solved anything? I'm not going to believe it. It's a joke that they did it because they loved him. You wouldn't do that to someone you love. You and your sisters were just jealous of him and you don't want to admit it. I hope one day he'll be happy with someone else. Issei. Tiadma, don't say that, it hurts me and you know it. Tiadma. You know I'm very honest, partner, and you and everyone else brought this on yourselves. You just have to face the consequences and your brother will hate you forever. I hope he forgives you all for this because this is unforgivable and I don't think he'll ever be the same man you knew since we saw how he killed Rizabin and Troy, an entire army, without breaking a sweat. Issei. He'll forgive us. I know he's still out there somewhere. That good, kind, and cheerful Issei is his family. I just have to apologize and… Tiadma. It won't happen. You can't give back all that time and life that was lost because of you. He disconnected from Issei's mind so he wouldn't have to talk to her anymore. Meanwhile, with the Ryu. Note. As I told him, that wretched womanizer, bad brother, worthless man, shameless traitor, heartless, dishonorable disgrace, and son of a bitch, I won't go on any longer because otherwise my train of thought will get blocked. He was in his room remembering all the moments he spent with his family when they were close, before all the mistreatment, the chestnut-haired boy and everything else, and the promise they made as children to never turn their backs on each other and always be there for one another. He remembered how, no matter how many times he smiled at him, how he always helped him with everything, and how he always called him brother, always showing his affection, even though he always pushed him away and watched him fade little by little until the day of the betrayal. He could only remember when he tortured him and said things to him. He could only remember his pleas and cries of pain, always delivered to the face of the women he had always loved. And he would never have them, especially knowing that his world shattered when Rizabin beat him senseless and was about to kill them all, and that he had to tell the truth that the brunette was innocent and that all this time they had harmed an innocent person only to feel worse. He wanted to deny it. It was true, at first he didn't care, but hearing that he was the son of the biblical god, that he had been chosen to be with his family, and that he had always had power and his magic, plus the other Longinus magic, and that Rias couldn't sense it because she was weak and because his power was too immense for her to feel. And they didn't hurt his brother for anything, and he was always an angel, enduring them and helping them even though they didn't deserve it. He was envious and jealous that someone like him could do things that were impossible for him, that's why it frustrated him, and why he did those bad things to Issei, especially since the truth about the rumors about Issei came out. Everyone at the academy hated him, reproaching him for his actions towards his only brother. Those who hated him the most were the vermin, as they would beat him up whenever they saw him, especially the kendo students, telling him he had no honor as a man for what he did and for spying on them. It was said that he was always spying on them and always blaming Issei, knowing that they could beat him to death. He didn't care anymore, as long as he got his way. He earned the teacher's coldness, indifference, and hatred for what he did. Furthermore, they could make him his real homework in front of them and he wouldn't leave until he finished it. If he didn't do it well, he would have to do it again until he did it right. The only reaction from the boys was the silent treatment. Even his closest friends abandoned him, saying they thought they knew him, but all they knew was that they knew nothing about him. Their hatred for him, the fact that he was capable of doing that to his brother, made them unwilling to blame him for anything. He also faced the hatred of the entire supernatural world. The children booed him, saying he didn't deserve his titles, that he was a liar and a bad person for what he did to Issei, and that everything he had was thanks to Issei. They said he didn't deserve to be Issei's brother. The women distanced themselves from him, thinking he thought dirty things about them and that he couldn't be trusted. The man looked at him with contempt from all sides. The leaders wouldn't speak to him and didn't want him in any faction. The girls he took from Issei were left with contempt. All he could do was watch them cry and blame him for everything that was happening, because if he hadn't been a bad brother, they would still be with Issei. And everything would be alright if no one had fallen for his lies. He could only think that what he suffered in these 2 weeks was just a fraction of what Issei suffered in his entire life, and even more so what he suffered in Tartarus for not believing him. He regretted everything that had happened. He finally realized his mistakes and saw what a complete idiot he had been for what he did. He wanted his brother back, to beg for his forgiveness and for them to be the united family they were before he knew about the supernatural. He had hoped that the old Issei's kindness was still there and this time he wouldn't fail his brother again. Greg. I never thought you'd realize what you did, mate. I thought it would take you longer than this. Ryu. I'm an idiot, this is happening because of me. If I had done something, none of this would be happening. Drake, I just want my brother back. Greg. You know very well that will be impossible. He already suffered enough. It wasn't just your fault, but the fault of everyone who let themselves be consumed by their arrogance and lust for power, who didn't realize your brother's skills, abilities, and pure heart, and the great person he was. I don't think he'll forgive them. He suffered his whole life, and that's something that can't be forgotten or changed. You saw how he killed our enemies without mercy. He's not the same as before. Except that your brother died in Tartarus, and all that remains of him is the hatred and resentment he always kept inside, which now takes the form of a wolf. Ryu. I know, but I don't intend to give up or lose hope that we'll get my brother back, and I'll make sure everything is as it should be. Greg, I wish you luck, mate. I hope you do something right this time and don't keep making the same mistakes. The next day it was time for Issei Sekiryuutei's freedom, since he opened that surname near the cell of the former chestnut-haired man. The leaders of the biblical factions could be seen with some guards going to the cell of the chestnut-haired man, hearing someone growling. They saw some guards and chef who were standing against the walls and heard him say. Issei. Get out. I told you I didn't want to see you near me, much less touch me, and I don't intend to eat your disgusting food. Do you want to poison me like before? I told you I only wanted bread and water. That's all I eat thanks to you. Everything else disgusts me. Chef. But Issei-sama can't eat alone. That could make him sick. We just want to help make him more comfortable before the Mao avenge you. Issei, I don't give a damn about your words, actions, or desires. You worry about me? What a joke. Before, you didn't give a shit about my safety and well-being, but now that it's known I'm innocent and it was all someone else's fault, you want to act all repentant and like good people. I don't believe you. For 3 years, I saw how you enjoyed seeing my pain and suffering, so go ahead and give them those things because I don't care anymore, since I haven't needed anything from you or anyone else. So get out of here before I leave you just like I left Tri. Now Rizabin together, he said with his eyes shining, and the chefs and guards ran away like chickens. Issei. June idiots for finally poor resting Empas. But his sleep was interrupted when he heard the voices of a siskin, a pigeon, and a crow that he didn't want to see. Issei. I'm fed up with what I'm swallowing, he said with a vein throbbing in his head in irritation. Part 5. Liberation of a wolf and moments with unpleasant people. In the lair of a certain black wolf with red markings, and before him stood the leaders of the biblical factions who had come to free him. Although the wolf looked at them with disinterest, he had a very unfriendly expression, thus endearing himself to the leaders. Issei. What do they want here? Searches. Oh, hello Issei-kun, how have you been? He said this a little nervously because of the wolf's gaze. Issei. Ask what you want here, too. Have you come to continue torturing me? Azazel. Kid, we didn't come for that, we just wanted to know how you were. He said calmly, although he was sweating from nerves. Issei. And how do you expect me to be stuck in this hole for 3 damn years of my life because of you? He said furiously at the stupid question the leaders asked. Besides, who are you calling a little dear? I remind you that I am the firstborn son of the biblical god, the older brother of you vermin. You'd better not bother me or ask stupid questions like the one you asked earlier, or I'll make a kebab of siskin, crow, and dove with my claws. Now, I doubt you came just to ask how I am because of you, although I'm starting to get an idea of why you came. Michael. Well, we've come to free you since, as you're innocent, there's no point in you being locked up. Azazel. I see the guards managed to put the collar on you, the one meant to control your powers. They put it on because they didn't want you to kill someone with your immense power, but if it weren't for Phoenix's tears, the guards would have died at the hands of the former chestnut-haired boy. Terrifying, one of the escorts, a demon woman who served as a bodyguard for the Might leaders, fearfully snatched the chain from Issei's collar and teleported to the capital of Lily. The people quickly recognized the wolf as the hero who had saved them, and as for the leaders, they made him suffer for nothing. Some demons even wanted to approach him to ask for forgiveness for everything. And to thank him for all those times he saved them, some children wanted to hug him and apologize. When one of the children ran crying, intending to hug him, the child saw that he was looking at him, as if telling him not to come near him, especially after seeing that he almost swiped at the child's face. They saw that when he put down the paw with which he almost attacked the child, it only touched the ground and cracked a little. If that swipe had hit the child, he would have been very hurt or dead, since he has a great resentment towards everyone because they always let the people of each faction take it out on him for being a traitor. That's why he attacked the child. If it hadn't been for the leader's companion pulling the chain in time, the child would be dead. Issei. You damn brat. You didn't dare try to touch me with your filthy traitorous rat hands. Do you think I haven't forgotten how you and some of your family and friends attacked me with your magic attacks to hurt me? Next time I'll kill you. He growled, which scared the boy. The boy's mother apologized, though Issei didn't care. Woman. Issei-sama, my son and my family are truly sorry for treating you badly. It was all a misunderstanding. If we had known you were innocent, we would have. Issei. Shut up, you vulgar bitch, and go back to your brat before all you worthless demons exhaust what little patience I have left and I kill you all just like I killed Rizabun. The woman grabbed her son and they moved away from Issei and the others, even though everyone wanted to reprimand her for what she had done a moment ago. It wasn't appropriate since she also had the right to hate them because they had all ruined her life. They continued on their way, under the nervous and regretful gazes of everyone around them. Issei's pav. Walking around like this, I look like your pet. How humiliating. Everything would be different if you were here, father. He said this in a sad tone. They arrived at the Gremory clan and there was Gryphia, Search's wife. She looked like she was crying because before the betrayal, Issei had considered her like an older sister. But when the way he treated her began and after her betrayal, she said that one day she visited him on Search's orders to torture him a little. She said she only used him because it was on the orders of his family and the Gremory clan, so he would learn his place. Now he said that if her innocence were ever revealed, he would never forgive her for this because he had expected more from her, but he only received more disappointment from her. Returning to the present moment, Gryphia greeted the leaders with respect and reverence. Our protagonist looked like he wanted to hug him, as he missed him a lot and regretted what he did in the past when the beautiful silver-haired maid was almost within inches of touching him. He transformed into a blue and black dragon wolf, launching an attack at the woman, who narrowly dodged it. Everyone was surprised by the attack on the woman, who only wanted a hug from him, but only managed to have the beam graze her cheek, and it seemed that he launched that attack with the intention of injuring her. This is how she looked, but she returned to her current form. Gryphia said. Issei Toto, why did you do that? She said sadly, still in shock, since she didn't expect the person she considered a younger brother to attack her with the intention of hurting her. Even though everyone knows the reasons why he attacked her and that she brought it on herself since she shouldn't have hugged him like nothing happened, knowing what he did before. Issei. Are you seriously asking, or should I remind you that you, like everyone else, betrayed me because of my brother's idiocy and some damn stranger who showed them evidence that was obviously fake? I thought you'd believe me, but when you turned your back on me, like everyone else, I realized you can't trust anyone, especially not the people you love or who claim to love you when it's all a lie. I expected more from you, Gryphia, but I see you're just like all these vermin. He said this while looking at her with hatred, as he had at everyone since the moment he emerged from Tartarus. He hadn't stopped looking at them with distrust. Gryphia felt immense pain in Issei's words, for they were true. She had only used them because she was ordered to hurt him emotionally. At first, she enjoyed seeing him suffer, but she began to feel a sibling-like bond, which she ignored. After the betrayal, things only worsened. His treatment of the protagonist, revealing his intentions and then learning the truth, left her devastated. She only hoped he would forgive her, continue to see her as a sister, and promise never to turn his back on her again. But now she sees the hatred he harbors for everyone, the hatred he had repressed his entire life. Now his emotions are unleashed, and he will no longer hide what he feels for the traitors, a pure, unparalleled hatred. Issei. Gremory, you and your wife, or maid, or whatever she is, better keep your brat away from me, or else I'll see him torn to pieces. Searches. But Issei-kun, Milikas, I miss you. You're like an older brother to him. How can you say that? He said seriously, but inside he was nervous about the wolf's answer. Issei. You bratty brother, don't make me laugh. I'll never see that spoiled child as a little brother again. What you did to me only proved he's just as much of a rat as his parents. Everyone here used to praise my suffering, and now that they know the truth, they act like a bunch of hypocrites. While this was happening outside Gremory Castle, inside, a conversation was taking place between several people. The Gremory patriarchs, the girls from the occult research club, the Citri clan, other women from different factions, and the Yodui family. About 2 days prior, Serzic's had told his parents and the others that he would be going to rescue Issei from Tartarus. Everyone was excited and hoped they could apologize to him and make amends for what they had done to him and how they had treated him his entire life. The girls wanted to ask his forgiveness for everything they had done to him in the past, to be with him and make amends for what the Yodui patriarchs had caused. They wanted to see their son and beg his forgiveness and be a family as they should have been. The sisters were excited to see their brother and apologize to him and mend the sibling relationship they had before entering the supernatural world and explain why they treated him the way they did. Ryu, too, wanted to get his brother back and apologize on his knees if necessary. End of flashback. When everyone saw Searches, Azazel, and Michael enter. Then Alana. Well son, where is Issei-kun? I don't see him. Everyone thought he was there, but the Redeed said. Searches, we have to show respect to Issei, since the guards who managed to survive his clutches were able to perform some tests on him and discovered that when we experimented on him, we unintentionally blocked him from being in a semi-human form and he can only be in his wolf form. He will remain like this until he figures out how to return to a semi-human form and let's just say he's not in a good mood to see us all. Searches told them everything that happened in the cell of the former chestnut-haired man and then when they arrived in the capital of Lily and how the people tried to welcome them and how it went wrong and when they arrived at Gremory Castle and how he received Gryphia. Everyone was surprised by the protagonist's attitude but it was to be expected knowing what they had done to him when they told the guards to let him pass. Seeing a wolf almost the size of a tiger, with fur as black as the darkest night and red markings that glowed like fire, and those eyes that stared at them with hatred, disgust, resentment and contempt, made them all sad and nervous. This was compounded by the fact that he was wearing a collar with a chain, like a leash, and several guards were clutching the chain, afraid that he might break free and kill someone. They could only grow sadder to see what they had turned their son, friend, companion, hero, brother and other women's lover into, since it was their fault and their desire for power that the former brunette was in this state. Issei. He looked with annoyance at the leaders of the biblical factions, the Gremory patriarchs, the Yodui family, the occult research club, and the student council that is, Sona's group and the Phoenix Plan, and even more so when he saw Gryphia, Milika's, and some other female faction leaders, and when he saw his former sensei and friend, Isabella, who was looking at him with nervous smiles, not knowing what to say or talk to him to break the tension in the air. But everyone was jolted out of their thoughts when a red blur passed by and they heard someone angrily yell at them to stop playing or he'd kill someone. That was Rias, who, overcome with emotion and other feelings, couldn't stand the comfortable moment any longer and lunged towards our favorite wolf protagonist. Since everyone was in their own world and the protagonist was looking around to see what the others in the room were doing and because of all the noise, he didn't realize that Rias was about to dance behind him. Rias could be seen hugging Issei, kissing him on the face and his lips, but the most striking detail was the passion between them. The Redeed was on top of him, her legs wrapped around his waist and her front paws on his chest. His ears and tail were twitching wildly, clearly disliking the situation, especially after everything she had done to him. You might wonder why he didn't use one of his abilities to get rid of her. Well, it was because of the collar. They'd put special hedges on it, imbued with angelic energy, to contain his most lethal powers and prevent him from killing someone when he was angry. Besides, the chain and the guards holding it made it difficult for him to move, especially since the Redeed had him subdued and it was difficult to break free in his wolf form. The Redeed moved, the more she hugged him, pressing herself against his chest, making it hard for him to breathe. He tried to bite her to make her let go, since she had blocked his breathing. When he tried to free himself from her grip, she kissed him on his mouth, not caring that he had to be in that position. Rias. My Issei, my cute pawn, my beautiful little wolf, how much I missed you, and I will never leave your side again, she said, kissing him on the mouth again, while he struggled to get away from her. All this was being watched by everyone with an anime-style sweat drop. This can't get any worse, he thought to himself as he tried to free himself from the girl's grasp. In that position, it was difficult to move his paws to get out, but as soon as he said it couldn't get any worse, the other women in the room rushed to do the same as the Redeed. They all hugged him like a plush toy, kissed his face and nose, and stroked his fur. The yokai one stroked his ears and wolf tails because, to be honest, his fur was very soft and comfortable. All the fallen angels and angels touched his 20 pairs of wings, which were black and red and other colored plates, feeling the softness of his plumage. The one who enjoyed it the most was the Archangel Gabriel, since she loved the whiteness of his wings and how soft they were, and smelling his scent. Part 6. Dealing with hypocrisy and the arrival of the white dragon. Returning to where we left off, while the women were focusing on our protagonist, he was already fed up with this, and his patience, or what little he had left, was waning. Everyone saw how his tails moved violently, grabbing all of them, pulling those off him, and throwing them onto the furniture. Issei. Finally, a little space. You're definitely a nuisance and a headache, and don't ever act like that again. I'm not yours. Now tell me, why did you really drag me out of my cellar mansion? Are you taking me to a place worse than Tartarus? Auden. No, brat, it was for. Issei. You damned old pervert, don't you ever call me a brat again, you hear me? He said this while releasing a bit of his murderous instinct and bloodlust that scared everyone and made them tremble like jelly. Mickey. Son, please stop, you're not like this. Issei. You shut up. I wasn't like this, and whose fault is it that I'm like this now? Making everyone lower their heads a little. Boru. Issei, don't speak to your mother like that. I want you to apologize to her right now, and you'll come with us to our house, and we'll find a way for you to return to normal. But he couldn't speak because he saw sharp green pieces of pixels pass close to his face and neck, and if he had moved, it would have hurt him badly. They saw those things crash into the wall and clash into sparks, and they turned to look at Issei, whose appearance changed into a dark green wolf with phosphorescent parts and pixels around him. This is how she appeared, and then she returned to her normal form. Issei. Don't you ever tell me what to do again, you damned, cowardly, treacherous human scum. You are not my father, and let that be clear. My only father is the biblical God. And remember, I already existed and was only placed in that woman's womb by the will of a father. I don't consider you family. Alice. This is it, but Nyson, we're family, we grew up together, we had many good times together, doesn't that matter to you? Issei. Ha 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 ha. Issei. Tell me what good memories I have with you all and what we spent together as a family. Alice was going to say something but nothing came out. She tried to remember but nothing. She asked her other sisters for help but none of them remembered. Issei. That silence is enough for me. They don't know anything about me, they don't even remember what I like, and don't say that because we're brothers we like the same things because that's not the case. Don't act like nothing happened. I don't consider you anything to me after what you did to me. My whole life, because of you, I haven't had a normal life. While you were having fun at your birthday parties, family outings, or with friends, I was sometimes left starving, with nothing and no one there for me. You had friends. I only had bullies and almost murderers. My room looks like a prison cell. I didn't even have the basics for a normal room. Just so you know, I paid for some things myself, since I had a job until Ryu caused me to get fired. But I can't stand being here anymore, seeing you all. I'm going to sleep in any old room, and I don't plan on sleeping with any of you. She left, leaving some sad people behind. She found a room and, not caring that it belonged to a maid and wondering how she would open the door if she had legs, well, she learned to use her tail for something. The others searched for him for dinner but couldn't find him. They checked all the rooms but found nothing. When it was midnight, Issei went out to look for something to eat and saw that they had left some cake. He wondered who was foolish enough to leave something like that without putting it away. He sniffed it and it seemed fine, so he thought about tasting it, but then he saw the full moon, and it was beautiful. He remembered when he was with his father, God, and his brothers before he was human and before the war. He remembered when Gabriel begged him to sing, since he always sang to her, even when she was afraid, and he composed a song, because his father told him to sing when he needed to release some of his emotions and stress. Looking at the moon, he thought. Issei's pav. It's the first time I'll sing again after so long. I'll sing the song I sing to Gabriel when we with father. I hope I remember how to do it. That was the song Issei was singing, but as he did, he began to remember what the factions and the demons had done to him. He remembered that he used to be able to transform his wolf parts into those of another race, and thinking about demons and dragons, his body began to glow until his form changed. He could be seen as a young man with red hair, a demon tail, dragon wings and horns, holding a cake and eating it. His clothes consisted of a sleeveless black shirt and a short-sleeved black and red trench coat that reached below his hips and had a hood in the back. He wore black denim pants with a chain in one of the pockets. His nails were black and looked like claws, his ears were slightly pointed, and his eyes were phosphorescent red. He had markings on his neck and arms like tattoos, but as if they were flames. His skin was very pale, and he had flame-like stripes under his eyes. This was Issei's new appearance, but when he saw it, he wondered how he did it. He remembered his father telling him that when he looked at the moon, he could change anything into another form, since the moon and its light were like angels. But being the son of God and possessing his power, he could do that, but only when there was a full moon. But he heard someone coming, but he didn't pay attention because he was starving, that's why he was eating the cake. Someone pointed a flashlight in his face and said. Issei. Hey Phoenix, could you take that away from my face? It's blocking my food. He said to the person in front of him, shining a flashlight in his face. He then heard noises coming from below and a voice singing a song. He wondered who it was, but seeing this boy standing there, he thought he was a thief. But when he heard his voice, he recognized him as Issei. Bravo. Issei-sama, how did he return to his semi-human form? She said, surprised and very red-faced upon seeing him clearly. Part 7. Explanation of a phoenix, its new appearance, and more revelations. Issei. That's none of your business, and stop it. He took the flashlight away with his tail, since it hadn't stopped shining it in his face. Ravel. How is this possible? Azazel-sama and Ajuka-sama have conducted tests with their DNA to see if they could return to normal, but all the results were negative. Issei. Wait, what do you mean those two idiots used my DNA to experiment on me? When did they do it? Now I'll rip off their wings and then castrate them. Tell me, how did they do it? Ravel. They did it when they put the collar on him, and the little DNA they managed to remove, I swear it wasn't for anything bad, it was just to help him. Issei. Help me remember that because of you and those two, I can't stay in this form for long. Ravel. What does it mean that it doesn't last in that form? Issei. I can only do it when there's a full moon, and I'm singing because it helps me calm down and concentrate my power, but since you showed up to bother me, I lost my calm. Tomorrow night I'll have to turn back into a wolf and do the same thing. But they heard a group of people coming with more flashlights, all of which shone in the protagonist's face. Issei's pav. Why only me? Didn't she say that too? He said, a little irritated. Asia. Rabel-san, who is he? Why are they talking in the dark kitchen? Bakeno. Ara, what a handsome and beautiful boy. It would be fun to have a pastime with you. It's a shame you're not Issei-kun, because if you were, I would have fun with you. She said it with a sadistic and perverted touch. Issei didn't like that, but he decided to ignore it and continue with his cake. It was more important than what they were talking about. Ravel. You'll see, he's Issei-sama in his true form. She said nervously, because of the situation and everything. Peace was gone in 3, 2, and 1. Everyone. Ooh. Zudikus. That's true, seeing the supposed Issei. That's true what the protagonist said. They recognized him by his voice, but the women had some rather unsavory ideas about what to do with him. After an explanation of why it was like that, everyone understood. Benalana. So tomorrow night you'll be back in your wolf form, right? He simply nodded. Issei. It depends on my emotions. If I'm angry, my time will be cut in half. Rias. Then you can go to the academy tomorrow. Issei. But how will I be at the academy if this form only lasts a short time? Searches. Well, then you remember when Rizabin and Tridza were in the battle you had with them, he said nervously. Issei. Yeah, so what does that have to do with going to that academy full of idiots like some of the others I'm seeing? Searches. Well, the coat was a magic circle of communication, and by doing so it revealed the supernatural world, and humans know about us, and we had to give many explanations. Issei. Are you saying they know everything and more? They saw when I killed those two scumbags, they already know about me, or didn't they tell them? Searches. Well, now everyone in Japan hates us, and even more so those at Kuo Academy who regret it, and the world leaders want to congratulate you for the times you saved them. Issei. I see, this will be very troublesome, although I feel like you're lying to me about something. Searches. In what thing? Issei. What you said was a lie, because that idiot Kaio said the human world already knew about us, and that he told them what I supposedly did, that I betrayed them all. Do they think I didn't sense that some humans had demonic auras when they were sent to take revenge on me? I knew perfectly well they were human, even without revealing my form. Now the humans know, right? Everyone was surprised and scared because he knew the truth about everything. Hiroka. Look on the bright side, Issei, Naya, you can go to the academy no matter what form you take. Isn't that a good thing? She said nervously because of the look he was giving her. Issei, first, could you shut up? Second, that's not good for me since I have to take you all down because of this thing, referring to the collar, and third, putting up with the traitorous humans who helped you link me to this. This can't get any more annoying. Issei had no other choice. He would have to go study since his father would have wanted him to finish his studies. This made the girls happy that he was going so they could spend time with him and hope he would forgive them and this time be something more. Asia will then go to the academy with us, Issei said happily, the former nun. Issei, don't get confused, I'm doing this for father, not for you. Besides, if I did it somewhere else it would be the same. Furthermore, I have to take care of certain matters related to heaven. I don't intend to let father's work continue to ruin Michael, so go sleep a little longer. But before the girls could suggest sleeping with any of them, he disappeared, making them a little sad, but they cheered up because they had the opportunity to be close to him at the academy. Part 8. A wolf in Kuo and the hypocrisies of an academy. After Issei returned to the room where he was, since he didn't want the Gremory family and the others to know he was there until dawn. Issei took advantage of the moment to transform into his wolf form and absorb the moon's energy, allowing him to remain in the portal he had entered a few hours earlier for a little longer. It was time for the others to go to the academy, but they couldn't find Issei until they heard his voice emerge from the shadow of one of the castle's pillars. Rias. Issei, since when have you been there? And don't scare us. Issei. I've been here waiting for you since you woke up so we can finally end this annoying day. So? But why isn't Issei-san in the human form he showed us last night? Issei. It was to avoid wasting what he absorbed from the moon's pure energy, since time has passed since he took on a semi-human form. I'll ask you, girl, not to speak to me with such familiarity. You and I are nothing, so why speak to me as if you know me? This made Asia sad because Issei didn't see her as a friend or anything like that. Kiba. Issei, why didn't you go have breakfast or ask a servant to make you something to eat? Then Alana. It's true, it's not good to go to school on an empty stomach. She said it like a mother scolding her son, although Issei didn't seem to care. Raifia. Issei Toto, if you want, I can prepare something for you to eat before going to the academy. She said, hoping he would accept. The others expected the same as well, since no one could refuse Graifia's food because it was delicious. Issei. I'm not hungry, I was full from what I ate last night. Raifia. But eating cake isn't breakfast and it's not healthy, she said it like an older sister scolding her little brother. Issei. I remind you not to talk to me like you're my older sister because you're not, so stay out of it's none of your business. Besides, my body and Tartarus got used to eating very little without lacking nutrients. Also, there are things that, because of you, I can barely taste since you damaged my throat a bit even though it healed, but it doesn't mean I can taste everything. So let's go. They all left in a magical circle until they reached an alley, and from there they began to walk down the street, attracting the gazes of everyone. Although Issei didn't expect humans to know about the supernatural world, much less to live with it, for him it was something strange. Issei's path. My father would be happy to see this, that everyone is taking this, but this happened because of my pain and suffering. And now everyone's hypocrisy towards me, how ironic. People recognized our protagonist because the leaders had to report Issei's innocence when he killed Trihexa and Rizabin and what he became because of everyone. People wanted to apologize to him for what they did to him in the past, and others couldn't even look him in the face for shame, since no one believed that this wolf the size of a tiger who came with the Gremory and Yodui clans was actually their hero, the one they betrayed and didn't believe. They wanted to approach him, but he looked at everything with hatred and boredom. Until they arrived at Kuo Academy, there was a commotion and scandal as soon as they got there, since the students hadn't expected to see their old classmate. When the groups went to their classrooms, only Issei remained in the group with Asia, Irina, Zenobia, Issei, and Anna. They were happy to be in the same group as Issei, but he wasn't amused at all. They had to make sure he was on the right side of the chain. They could see he didn't like how they were looking at him. Then they got to their classroom, and the teacher said they had a new student. But since the students hadn't seen Issei yet because the girls were the first to arrive and Issei, in his wolf form, was behind the desk, they only saw Irina and Zenobia holding something. But then a student said. Student. But sensei, we only see Irina and Zenobia, we don't see the new student. Everyone nodded, confused by that, but Irina said, you can come out now, Issei-san. But then they all heard the sound of animal paws and the rattling of chains, and all the students were shocked to see a black and red wolf with a look of pure hatred that, if you looked at it for too long, could be seen in the worst of hell. Everyone was astonished to see the animal, but even more so to recognize Irina, her former classmate and hero of the world, who had been hurt by everyone in his life and was the eldest son of the biblical god, the one who defeated Trihexa, the dragon of the apocalypse, and Rizabin, Lucifer, son of the original Lucifer. It was shocking that he was there, but even more so to see firsthand what they had done to him, since he had taken that form because it was all their fault. Issei. My name is Issei, just Issei, and it's no pleasure to see or meet you all. He said it in such a cold voice that it sent chills down everyone's spines. The girls were about to head to where they were going to sit with Issei, but just as he was about to sit down, Zenobia decided to play a joke that I didn't like. Zenobia. Come on, Ice-kun, if you can more or less transform into a semi-human form for today, why don't you use it to sit properly? Or are you going to sit like an obedient little dog in the chair? Be careful you don't fall if you want me to help you. She tried to grab him in a hug to put him on her chest and cuddle him like someone cuddling a dog to lift him onto something, but when she was about to grab him, she had to back away and avoid grabbing him in the face. If it weren't for Irina pulling the chain in time, the blue-haired girl would undoubtedly have lost half her face. Issei. You looked for a way to mess with me. How many times have I told you not to touch me? And you better not bother me like that again. Be grateful I have this stupid chain, otherwise I'd blow your head off with one swipe. And don't you dare give me orders in your flirty direct messages again, or next time I'll slice your face off, you hear? Zenobia. Why yes, she said it scared because of what Issei said and the attack that almost hit her. Irina. Issei-kun, don't attack Zenobia again. That wasn't right and you know it. And please, can you transform so we don't make this any harder? Issei. And what you did to me is fine, you ungrateful angel. This is just a small lesson from the past, so don't bother me. I have enough to deal with here. He was looking at the students who stayed behind, witnessing what had happened, but they turned away when they realized Issei was watching them. Issei. Besides, I was about to transform before your friend Shido interrupted. After he said that, they saw a lot of fire coming out of him, revealing his true appearance with parts of a demon and a dragon, the same form he showed everyone last night. Everyone was staring wide-eyed, the boys and girls blushing furiously, some even having nosebleeds. This was the transformation Issei should have undergone if he hadn't been betrayed and hurt, only with certain colors like his hair, eyes and markings, and without the dragon and demon parts. But they were surprised by what they experienced. They thought he couldn't transform into a semi-human form. Part 9. Problems and annoyance in Asia, a wolf. After everyone was surprised, they snapped out of their thoughts when the teacher asked. Professor. Young Issei didn't say he couldn't transform into a human, he said it doubtfully and incredulously because of what happened. Issei. Yes, that's true, but I can only stay in this form for one day. It depends on me staying calm. Otherwise, I'll revert to my wolf form and have to wait until the next full moon. Now, let's start the class. That's what you all came here to learn, not to stand around watching me. He said this with a cold, frightening gaze that terrified everyone. The classes continued, although for Issei they were very boring since, as always, he was the most intelligent before the betrayal. He already knew these topics, and whenever he was asked about an exercise or topic, he answered correctly. It surprised everyone that he still knew about these subjects after being imprisoned in Tartar for 3 years. The church group and the sisters tried to congratulate him on being so intelligent, but he just ignored them as if they didn't exist, making the girls sad. This was noticed by the whole class, but they couldn't reprimand Issei for his behavior, since they were nobody to him. Besides, it was clear that he also hated them because of the past, so they had no right to complain. During recess, everything was even more boisterous, as a rumor spread that our protagonist could take on a semi-human form, but only for a limited time. All the girls at the academy looked at him like he was some kind of deity, if only they knew they weren't wrong. The boys looked at him with jealousy, but they fell silent when they saw that the protagonist didn't care what they thought of him. He only cared if they messed with him, and if they did, he'd tear them all to pieces. Back at the cafeteria, he was at a table with the Gremory family and his siblings, having lunch. Issei didn't eat anything, as he wasn't interested in eating anything from the cafeteria because of his past experiences. He remembered being sold food at higher prices than the other students, having it thrown on the floor and stepped on, or having it taste awful. This was because the cafeteria cooks believed the rumors about Issei and made it their mission to make him suffer. Everyone found it strange that he wasn't eating anything. Was he sick, didn't have any money, or had he forgotten his lunch? It seemed odd that he wasn't hungry surrounded by so many people eating. Even the cafeteria staff found it strange, as they expected him to buy them something for lunch. But instead, he just looked at them and looked away, glaring at them with hatred, just like he did at the students. They had hoped he would forgive them, which is why they had gone out of their way to make the food more delicious for the students and for him, as an apology for his past actions. At the protagonist's table, things were a bit chaotic, as the girls were trying to feed Issei their food like he was a couple or a small child. He deflected their advances, saying he wouldn't try anything made by them, Gryphia, or the cafe itself. He said their food was awful, and besides, there was no point in trying anything if his sense of taste was ruined by them, and he couldn't taste anything, and he wasn't hungry. Since the guards would leave him without food for almost 2 or 3 weeks at a time, whenever they felt like it, this left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Everyone in the cafeteria heard it and didn't expect it. They felt bad because of them, he couldn't enjoy anything while they could. They didn't expect that when he was locked up, they would leave him without food for weeks, while they had delicious hot meals, while he only got stale, hard bread and a little water. This made them feel even more guilty. Since they couldn't endure that, because anyone else would have died, and he survived because of the experiments Azazel and Ajuka performed on him to transform him into a wolf, that's why he didn't die. They felt bad for the suffering the protagonist went through because of them, for never trusting him. After the last classes, where everything was normal except for the students' low spirits due to what happened in the cafeteria, at the end of the day, there were some club activities. Meanwhile, in the occult club, everyone went to do their tasks, like making contracts, although this time it was our favorite wolf's turn to go with his other sisters and brother. He had to make contracts with Ryu, Alice, and Alyssa. They were happy because they would spend time with their brother, although for our wolf, this was not at all amusing. Rather, it was annoying. Things were more or less going well, although some women asked him to spend time with Issei because they didn't recognize him. Much to his displeasure, he told them his identity so they would stop bothering and flirting with him. This angered those who asked him for dates since they couldn't look him in the face because of what they did to him. The other contracts continued normally until they returned to the club where everyone was chatting. They realized it was already night when Issei began to glow, reverting to his wolf form. This meant his time was up and they had to wait for the others to finish their contracts. When everyone sat down, except for Issei, since there was space for him on the couches, but he didn't want to be near any of them. And when some of the girls made room for him, the boys did too. Everyone watched in amazement as his eyes glowed phosphorescent red and a sky appeared, perfect for his size. So he lay down to take a nap while the others arrived, since Gasper, Irina, Zenobia, Issei, Elissa, and Kiba were still missing. In the club were only Ryu, Rias, Akeno, Asia, Kaneko, Rabble, Rossweisse, Alice, Elissa, and our protagonist. They were all chatting until one of the girls approached to pet him as he slept. This was the thought of some in the room, as his fur looked very soft and shiny in the moonlight. The imprudent one who approached was Asia. She knew it would anger him and possibly earn her a swipe, but she would accept it as a kind of punishment for what she had done to him in the past, for never helping him when he needed her. And always knowing that all he suffered because of everyone, and if she had even believed him, maybe she would have looked for proof of his innocence, even though she knew it was too late to repent for what she did. The damage is done, and he hates her. Undoubtedly, she's a cruel woman for treating him badly and never helping him when he was always there for her and helped save her life, even begging Rias to revive her as a demon, knowing that he risked so much for her and gave her a home and a family, even though she was a stranger he barely knew. And how did she repay him for what he did for her? By abandoning him, forgetting what he did for her, and not defending him from what others did to him. Although in her heart she felt that what she and the others were doing was wrong, she knew she didn't have the courage to help him because she was afraid of what they would do to her. It reminded her of what happened in the church she used to visit for having helped a demon. She didn't want to relive those moments, and that's why she never helped Issei, even though she wanted to, especially after learning the truth about everything. Even though she already felt that everything they told her was a lie, she felt terrible knowing that she had always been right to believe that Issei was innocent of everything, even though she had given up on doing anything for him. And she always had the opportunity to help him, although because of her cowardice and fear she did nothing, since she never hit or hurt him when they taught him in Tartarus because she knew he was innocent, even though she had doubts about it, she never had the courage to hurt him. The only thing she did was ask him why he betrayed them while she cried, believing that he only saved her out of mere convenience for himself, when he told her that everything was a lie and that he always only wanted to help them and have everyone's affection. So Asia approached him, ready to face whatever punishment he would give her for touching him. She sat close to him and gently lifted the wolf's head, placing it delicately on her lap. She slowly and gently stroked his head and ears, knowing how sensitive some animals are in that area. All she could do was cry as she watched him sleep so peacefully. Just seeing him reminded her of everything he had been through and the many times she could have helped him. But because she was unsure of who to believe and afraid that something worse would happen to her for helping him, she hadn't done anything. She regretted not doing anything for him when she had the chance. She just moved closer and closer to him, knowing he would attack her. She just wanted this chance to apologize properly, or at least for him to hear her and not ignore her. Even knowing she was in danger by getting so close and touching him, she moved closer to one of his ears, hugging him with affection, regret, forgiveness, and sadness, and said, "Asia. I Issei-san, I really sniff I'm so sorry sniff. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, even knowing that I had doubts about you and what they said about you sniff. Although I felt that you couldn't possibly be capable of doing those bad things because if you had been, you wouldn't have saved someone as useless as me sniff. So I ask for your forgiveness, even though I don't know if you can hear me or not. I just wanted you to know that, even if it earns me more hatred, anger, and resentment for saying this and for. I promise not to touch you without your consent again, and not to speak to you or approach you, unless you wish it sniff. I know what I did was wrong, and I don't deserve God's forgiveness, much less yours. I don't deserve forgiveness from the first friend I ever had and the most special person to me, so I'm sorry," the ex-nun said, crying softly so the others wouldn't hear her, although they were so caught up in their own affairs that they weren't paying attention to the current situation. Although the nun later distanced herself from him so as not to upset him, she didn't know that he had been awake the whole time, listening to what she was saying, waiting to see what she was up to. If she had turned out to be some hypocritical fool like the others, he would have given her a piece of his mind. He knew that, being half archangel by virtue of God the Father, he could tell when someone was lying to him, and he knew that what the nun said was true. If she had lied, he would have attacked her or turned to stone until she told the truth. And he felt that what Asia said was true, although he never fully believed her, since he didn't know who to believe and who was telling the truth. He had to accept that if he had helped her in front of everyone, they would have done something bad to him, even though his past had hurt him. If they did anything to the former nun, he knew that she had apologized properly, not hypocritically like the others, hoping that he would go back to being the way he was before, knowing that it was impossible for everything to go back to normal. Furthermore, he had to accept that Asia thought that if he didn't forgive her, she wouldn't bother him like the others, who pretended not to regret what they did, knowing how hypocritical it was to go back to the way things were before, as if nothing had happened. Besides, the former nun had the nerve to approach him and face the consequences of her actions, knowing how he treats them now. He thought that maybe, just maybe, he would forgive her, but he wouldn't trust her until he saw if she was trustworthy or not, since the trust he once had in her was almost gone, and the trust he had in Dardari took years to rebuild, because you can lose someone's trust in a second, and it takes years to regain or create it. So he would think about this later. He woke up pretending he had slept, since he felt like he had returned. The others had gone to the underworld, and he went to his room to think about how the day had gone and what awaited him the next day. Part 10. Hidden world of family and average life for a princess. After a long day, Issei was confused about what had happened. In his room, he put up a barrier to prevent anyone else from entering, as he didn't want any of the Gremory girls to dare sleep naked near him, knowing their bad habits. He was thinking about the complicated day it had been and everything that had happened. But since he couldn't sleep, he got up and left his room. He was very stealthy and no one could hear him. He was exploring the entire Gremory castle, since he felt something calling him, until he saw where they kept relics. He wasn't going to steal anything. He was just going to see what was in that place that called him so urgently. He transformed into a black wolf with a cloak that was a shadow element to pass through the door, since he saw that it had magical symbols for security, in case someone entered to steal something. 2. Yes, Lucia and the book crossed the dead and the symbols without anyone noticing, and when she entered she saw the object that called to her, and it was a crystal necklace. He remembered that necklace. It was his old necklace that his father had given him. It was also the door and key to take him to another world that his father had created and asked him to take care of when he was gone, although he never thought his father would really leave. That's why he looked melancholic, since that was the last thing he had of his father, God, although he wondered how his necklace had fallen into the demon's hands, though perhaps it had fallen on the battlefield when his father was pointing at him, and he picked up the necklace. Since it didn't matter if someone claimed him, as the necklace was his property because it bore his name, he grabbed it. When he held the crystal stone, a light reflected his name. However, something strange happened to the necklace. The gold chain changed from gold to silver, and he heard a voice telling him to save it, but he didn't know what from. Voice. Please, save me, I need Issei. He didn't know why that voice was calling him, but a necklace suddenly appeared around his neck and with a single flash, a portal opened in the shape of a door. He found himself inside an old Japanese-style house and he saw a forest. It was night. He knew that he had built this house with his father, God, and with all the weapons his father had left behind, weapons he had never told the other angels about. And he already knew why. His father knew that everything he suffered had to happen, but now he had to focus on finding out who the presence was that was calling him. He felt himself become immobile for a moment and could not move, and he felt his eyes glow and everything went dark around him, and he heard the same voice but calmer, saying some kind of enchantment or summoning spell for a guardian familiar. He opened his eyes, understanding something. He could see a blurry shadow of a girl holding a necklace identical to his, but with a white stone. This was the other key his father, God, had created. But he wondered how this human had it, and he saw that her hand was bleeding and understood something. By having her other necklace and combining it with her blood, she created a pact with him. Now he was her guardian familiar, and he had to protect her. The spell she used was, I invoke the Son of God, the Wolf of Night and Light, your fur as dark as night with red as blood, eyes red as the fire of purgatory. In blood, you speak of an angel so pure, with wings of a black angel. What sin was the betrayal by your own? Something as brave and unyielding as a dragon, love and justice like your father, God. I invoke you to be my companion, familiar, and guardian. Help me protect my kingdom and my people. In return, I give you my blood, soul, and purity free from sin. As a contract, give me your power and aid, Issei. That's the necklace the stranger was wearing. That was Issei's necklace. After that, he felt he could move and saw that he was in the same place as before, but he felt as if the voice was calling him more urgently, as if something bad was happening, so he quickened his pace, but he saw the girl was unconscious and weak, and he sensed, through her aura, that she was his summoner whom he had to protect. That's the girl's image. And he saw a monster, a kind of man-like creature, about to attack the girl. He could see some of the knights with her were injured and unconscious from the monster's attacks, so he attacked the monster with his claws. This is what the monster looked like. He could see the energy wave from his claws against the monster, defeating it and keeping the reward items for killing it. This seemed strange to him. It felt like he was in one of those isekai video games, although it wasn't the time to dwell on that. He saw the wounded, so he divided his tail into different parts and each tail touched one of the wounded. And a white energy began to heal them instantly, and when it finished, he approached the girl. He looked at her closely and had to admit that she was beautiful, but from her clothes and her scent, she smelled like royalty, like a princess, although that last part surprised him. He thought some kind of witch or sorceress had summoned him, not a princess. That was strange, but he shouldn't dwell on it. He approached and began to heal her wounds, pressing his forehead to hers and transferring his energy towards her. The red parts of his fur glowed a bright red as he healed her and restored her lost energy. As the princess lightly opened her eyes, she could see how that creature, which looked like a wolf or some kind of fenrir, had saved her life and the lives of her knights. Through her summoning necklace, she knew that this being was her familiar, summoned by her, and she knew from the necklace's memories that he was the son of God and that his name was Issei. She felt her heart pounding as hard as it could. Now she felt that because of the necklace, she had been chosen since birth and she felt that she was bound to someone, and that was Issei. Now their souls were sealed by the pact. She opened her eyes a little more. To see his new guardian, he saw that he was as the spell said. She felt a glow as black as night and arms as red as blood and eyes as red as the flames of bloody purgatory, but she felt peace and kindness in them, just as she felt distrust, sadness, hatred, resentment, betrayal, but she felt kindness and generosity in them. She gently took his face in her hands and said. Lexia. I knew you'd come to save me, thanks Issei. Now we're both sealed, she finished by kissing the wolf on the mouth, not caring that she was kissing a magical creature, a magical wolf. Part 11 Family of a Princess and Fiancé Part 2. While the princess was kissing our protagonist Issei, he had a face that said he hadn't expected this at all, but he wondered if anything could get worse than this, but unfortunately for him. The captain of the guard, Owen, who was with the princess and the other knights, was looking for the princess when he saw a creature near her. He was about to attack it because, from his perspective and distance, it looked like the wolf wanted to eat the girl's face. If only they knew the situation was different from what they expected. When the guard launched his attack, he stopped abruptly upon seeing that instead of the princess suffering from a dangerous and savage creature attacking her face, the man saw that the girl was kissing the creature, as if they were a couple. This caused the man to fall silent, stunned by the sight. Just like the knights who awoke from what happened. Owen yelled at the princess. Owen. Princess Lexia, what do you think you're doing? Why are you kissing that wild animal? Don't you see it could hurt you? And what happened to the animal that attacked us? At that moment, the knight's shout brought Issei to his senses, and he broke the kiss, although it annoyed Lexia that they separated, as she wanted to continue like that with him a little longer. Lexia. Owen, you know I don't like being ordered around like you're my babysitter. Besides, he's the one who saved me and the others. He's my familiar who was pointing the way. The necklace, he's Issei. Owen. And how do you know that, and it won't be a trap set by that creature, he said it without letting his guard down at any point. Lexia. If he had wanted to do something to me, he would have done it, or he would have let that achievement kill us all. Besides, he was wearing the same necklace as me. You saw when the crystal showed his image, and you know very well that it's him. He will not only be my familiar and guardian, but also my fiancé. Everyone. What the heck? Are you serious or what? While Issei wondered how all this had happened, going from being almost the pet of the factions, only able to remain in normal form for a short time, though that didn't prevent him from killing someone if he wanted to now being the familiar, guardian, and fiancé of a princess he didn't even know. This was the strangest thing he had ever seen, and he had seen many strange things. Owen. Well, we have to leave here. This place isn't safe for you, and besides, you already have the one we're looking for. We have to inform the king about this, although I don't know how he'll take it. But Princess hasn't asked if by chance the wolf understands what we say. He just denied it, saying he wasn't going to ask him that, but Issei interrupted them. Issei. Since I arrived, I can perfectly understand what they're saying. This surprised Owen and the guards, and it made Lexia even happier, so she hugged him and, turning her face to his, said. Lexia. Issei, will you marry me? All the men except the protagonist fell flat on their faces. Issei felt this was embarrassing, and a vein of irritation ran through him, thinking that she was mocking him just like all the women he had known in the past had done. Although he felt that Lexia hadn't hesitated for a moment when she told him that, he couldn't be sure of trusting her since he didn't know her, and she was more or less having the necklace of his father god. After that awkward moment for everyone, Owen suggested they leave before dark, as the forest was very dangerous for them, though they didn't know the protagonist's abilities. So they left and arrived at the castle where the king. She wanted to know who the blonde man was who saved her daughter. Lipov. The surprise he'll get when he finds out it's not what he expected, and I hope he doesn't make fun of him and think it's a bad joke, because I don't want the king to anger the protagonist and have him tear him to pieces without caring that he's the king. Owen explained the situation, omitting the fact that the warrior is a creature who is the princess's familiar, can't speak, and possesses unimaginable combat and healing abilities. He also omitted the princess's proposal to the wolf, only mentioning that she had proposed to the warrior that he marry her. And the king, let's just say, wasn't amused by that and said, "King. Who does that brat think she is to say that?" And let's just say he grabbed his sword and with the king's magic began to destroy everything in his path while Owen took cover behind a wall and a pillar, wondering why the entire royal family was so troublesome. After Ray calmed down and they cleaned up the mess he'd made in the room, he summoned his daughter and the warrior who had saved them. But when he saw Wolf or Feral the size of a tiger, he asked if this was a joke. Owen, nervous, had to fill in the gaps, explaining that he hadn't told her because she was very cautious about what had happened during the kidnapping. Making the king reluctantly understand the situation. So I ask. King. So you're the familiar my daughter summoned? I can sense you possess great power. Something tells me so. And from the scroll that came out of my daughter's necklace, you are an ancient creature and the son of the creator of this world. Tell me if you understand what I've said and if there's any way to tell if you have a semi-human form, since it seems I'm speaking to some kind of pet. He said it with a very serious look that would intimidate anyone, but it didn't affect the protagonist at all. Issei. Yes, I understand, your majesty. And yes, I am the son of God who created this entire world. As Lord Owen and his daughter told you, my name is Issei, and I don't have my semi-human form at the moment, since where I come from, I suffered from past incidents where people betrayed me for something I didn't do. They ended up converting me into what you're seeing, although when she defeated the monster that attacked her guards and her daughter, as she recognizes, one of the things was this necklace, taking out of her inventory a necklace with a pendant of a moon and a wolf. That's what the necklace looked like. Issei. I see the information on this thing says that this necklace can fix any magical defect, curse, spell, or hex of any kind, regardless of the curse's rank or the person who has it. Issei used his tail to put on the necklace, and suddenly it began to glow with a white light. And he thought that this time he would show his wolf ears, since he didn't want to show his demon ears, because he didn't want them to mistake him for those creatures, because they would think he was an enemy just imagining him with parts of his hair red. So Lucia Issei with his wolf ears and tail, imagine him with streaks of red hair. Owen and Ray were surprised, and Lexia blushed when she saw him. Issei could see that he looked different because his clothes had changed, as had parts of his body. He now had wolf ears and a tail. Issei. That's better. I see it worked. It's good, since I didn't like being a wolf for so long. I see this necklace has tremendous magical power to have fixed and undone what it did to me in the past. I'm glad I found it. King. Well, now that Issei understood this because the summoner's contract couldn't be undone. That would only happen if Lexia broke it or she died, and he didn't want the latter. Besides, since the necklace had chosen her for this purpose, it meant the Legion was trustworthy. So Issei proceeded to tell his whole story. A while later, the king, Owen, and Lexia were experiencing a mix of emotions after hearing Issei's story. He had shown them his memories, and they couldn't believe that God was dead. They couldn't believe everything that had been done to him by beings of other races, gods, and humans alike. Seeing the life he had endured as a human was horrifying and unjust. The king and Owen felt pity and sorrow for him. They couldn't imagine the hell he and his family had gone through for not having something he hadn't asked for, being born without it. And then there were all the good things he'd done for others, how he'd never been attacked, and all those battles he'd fought against powerful enemies, leaving himself on the brink of death to protect those he once loved. And how the credit was being stolen by others who didn't deserve it. The king and Owen could see that the Yodui brothers were useless in everything, especially on the battlefield. If it weren't for Issei, they would undoubtedly be dead. They were ungrateful and cursed, undeserving of life for their sacrifices. And how they turned their backs on him for believing in false evidence, and how they tortured him every minute, hour, day, night, days, weeks, months, and years. It was undoubtedly horrible, and those tortures seemed like something from hell itself. They couldn't believe that all those people who seemed good, even young adults and children of all races, even humans, tortured the boy like that. They seemed like demons, or better yet, monsters, especially when they saw that they did horrible experiments on him. They turned him into their weapon, they transformed him into the creature the king saw earlier and the one Owen saw in the gloomy forest. Undoubtedly, those beings seemed to have no heart or pity. Even someone evil might have shown him some mercy or consideration, but they had none. Undoubtedly, the young man's life was a true hell, an unimaginable nightmare. The king wondered how he endured all of that without succumbing to the darkness. Owen thought the same thing, and without a doubt, they would never do such things to anyone, much less to their children. On the other hand, Lexia was angry, sad, disappointed, and disgusted with the people who rejected Issei for something he didn't have, and even more so with how the women he loved rejected him and preferred others to him. And then there was the betrayal, the way his family and companions treated him, and the other beings of other races and humans who believed he was a traitor, causing the boy unimaginable suffering. For her, it was horrible, dreadful, and unpleasant, and everything they did to the poor protagonist, she could only cry seeing the life he had to live. But they were amazed to see that he defeated the enemies who had labeled him a traitor, and how he annihilated them with tremendous ease, especially the dragon of the apocalypse, a kind of dragon that would destroy everything in its path without any mercy. She could only soften up by hugging Issei, telling him that she would never do to him what those women and all those people had done to him, that she would love and protect him, and that she didn't care if he was a god or if he had wolf parts, that she loved him and would show him that he deserved to be with her. Issei only felt the affection and warmth of Lexia's words, and for the first time, he felt the part of love in his heart returning, although he wasn't sure what he truly felt. The king blessed him, allowing him to be with his daughter, knowing that he would take good care of her. He also said that she was now part of the family, that he trusted him, and that wherever he was, God also gave him his support and wouldn't forget. Owen did the same as the king, hoping to count on him to protect Lexia, and that he gave him his support and that he felt. Because of everything he went through in his life, and how someone as good as him could have such a life and have the courage and determination to keep going with people who only made things worse, anyone else would have given up. But Issei simply nodded, thanking the king and Owen for their support, except for the part about marrying Lexia. He told Owen that he should think about that part and get to know each other better, not rush things. Besides, Lexia had to earn his trust and love, and because of what happened in the past, he couldn't trust anyone, much less love anyone, after all the times his heart had been broken. Lexia told him to strive to win her love and that she wasn't like those women from his past. She loved him just as he was and didn't care if he was the son of God or wolf, or if he. Those words surprised Issei, but he sensed truth in them. He simply smiled and wished her luck. Winning his love wouldn't be easy, but it wasn't impossible either. This pleased Lexia, who hugged him and unexpectedly kissed him again. This time, however, Issei didn't resist the kiss. But the king said it was too soon to do that without being married and that it wasn't the right time to do it, grandfather. That saddened them both. Lexia blushed thinking about beautiful boys and girls with Issei's eyes and hair, with their little ears and tails and waves. Although that didn't bother her, it only made her happy to be with him and start a family. On the other hand, that only saddened Issei. Having a slight blush that wasn't noticeable because of her serious and cold face, Lexia took them to her room so they could sleep, saying with the excuse that a guardian familiar had to be close to its summoner and owner and mistress, although it was a pretext to get to know him better and sleep with him. Although overcome with the day's excitement, she fell asleep with him in her arms, and he could only hold her close, promising to protect her. Destiny had somehow brought them together, just as it had brought together those who had betrayed him. He hoped she could mend his broken heart, though he felt he was slowly falling in love with her. He knew she wouldn't fail him, for now their souls were intertwined by their pact and necklaces, and they could. To feel what the other person feels, and to feel that the love Lexia felt for him was real, and that love increased even more when she learned about his past and everything he had to go through, and even more so now that he has her to truly make him happy and mend his broken heart, just as God would have wanted for him. Issei closed his eyes, waiting to see what fate had in store for him. He hoped that being by the side of his new precious person would allow his affection, love, and happiness to grow little by little, and that everything would be alright. Part 12. Getting to know the new human world and saving a girl. The next morning, in a castle, specifically in a large luxurious princess's room, two people were asleep, though one was awake. That was our favorite elemental wolf, awake and watching Lexia sleep, gently stroking her head as she slept, a smile playing on her lips as she enjoyed the caress. He was thinking and remembering what happened yesterday, that so much had happened in one day, and now he was sleeping with someone. Although he didn't completely trust Lexia because of what he'd seen with her features, he really wanted to trust her. And because of the agreement they made for him to be her family, he could sense some of her emotions and what she felt for him, and that her love for him was real. He had doubts about ever loving someone again, but he felt that Lexia's words, her attitude, and her courage were making him feel something he thought he'd never feel again. True love and affection. It made him feel a kind of spark in his heart that would slowly grow, and he promised himself that even if he couldn't protect his father, God, in the war, he would protect Lexia with everything he had. Since he couldn't imagine seeing her die, he felt his heart clench at the mere thought of it and decided to put it out of his mind. He saw Lexia open her eyes and look at him with a warm smile. Lexia. Good morning, Issei. After saying that, she approached him and affectionately kissed his forehead, making him look away, though she didn't know that her boyfriend was happy about it. Issei. Good morning, Lexia, how did you sleep? Lexia. Well, now that I've found you, how did you sleep after everything that happened yesterday? Issei. Well, it's the first time in years that I've slept feeling at peace after everything that's happened to me in my life. Lexia. I'm glad you're feeling better, that's important, and from now on, so you always feel good, you'll sleep with me. Issei. It's not too rushed, we're not married to do that, with so much freedom people won't get the wrong idea. Lexia. Of course not, you're my guardian and fiancé, they'll think you're watching over me while I sleep. Besides, I also feel good sleeping with you, I also feel at peace, as if nothing bad could happen to me when I'm near you. Issei. Lexia, remember that I also have obligations in my other world, just like in this one, since my father, God, entrusted it to me. I have to investigate more of the other world hidden within this one, but I won't neglect my duties as your familiar. So, when you need me, just touch your necklace, and I'll appear in a flash, okay? Lexia nodded. She knew he was practically a god and had things to do. He could always be near her, even if she didn't want him to be, and she was teaching him about it in this castle. He had more right to go out than she did, since she was a princess. Her duty was to be in her kingdom, and she knew he would always protect her, just like he did yesterday, so she accepted what he said. After a breakfast that our protagonist enjoyed, it was the first time he'd eaten with his family, and eating something that wouldn't upset his stomach made him feel good. He told the king he was going out to investigate what he'd told Lexia earlier. The king understood, knowing he had to do it, and besides, he wouldn't neglect protecting his daughter. Because he saw in her eyes that Issei would give his life for her if necessary, and that's why he let him become engaged to her, because he wouldn't let just any man marry his daughter without getting to know him first, because that's why Issei was perfect, because who better to marry his daughter than the son of God, who is practically one himself, and who doesn't look at his daughter with lustful thoughts or thoughts of harming her. Although he felt sad for what he suffered, since no one with his qualities, whom he had in the past, deserved such a tremendous betrayal, even if he had met Issei before he unleashed his power, he would still have allowed him to marry her. Furthermore, Issei told him how his so-called brother was with women, and let's just say the king almost destroyed the hall again, because he didn't want to see his daughter near someone like that. He'd rather die than let a man look at his daughter like a piece of meat, as Rias did. He would tear the boy to pieces before he could touch his daughter. He wondered what Issei and his daughter's future grandchildren would be like, imagining them possessing all the intelligence and magical power of their father and their mother combined. He was amazed, but he knew Issei would make his daughter happy. After breakfast he said goodbye to the king and Lexia, although as a farewell she kissed him, telling him not to get into trouble, and if anyone needed his help to do it, he told her not to worry, because he has an angel side that makes him unconsciously help someone. He went to the forest where he found his father's old cabin and saw the door his father had told him to go through. He opened it and, to his surprise, found himself in a house, Japanese style but a bit more modern. He looked around and knew he could sense human presences and that there was no magic. This intrigued him, so he decided to explore the street. But first, he changed into more casual clothes. It would be like the clothes Yaya wears, only imagined on our protagonist. He hid his ears and tail because he didn't want to attract attention and make people think he was a magical being or mistake him for someone doing cosplay. But he couldn't go unnoticed because people kept staring at him, especially the women, drawn to his attractiveness. Everyone thought he was an actor or a model from some magazine or something like that. But for Issei, this was annoying and irritating to be stared at like that, but he had to ignore it since he wasn't there to cause trouble in the first place. After walking around all day, he stopped near an alley and saw something he didn't like. He saw some thieves trying to hurt a girl. He told them to let her go, that the girl hadn't done anything to deserve being bothered. Thief 1. Don't meddle where you're not wanted, you busybody, unless you want a beating. Thief 2. We just want to have some fun with this cutie, so get out of here first, because my friend and I have fun disfiguring your pretty boy face. Issei looked at the girl who was asking him for help. He couldn't leave her like that because his father, God, taught him that he should always help those in need, and this was the moment to act. Issei. Other people's mentality is annoying, I don't like repeating things twice, so stop it or I'll make you suffer. The guys laughed at our protagonist because they thought he was crazy to confront them when they were more powerful than him. Issei. He defeats them when I count to 5. The men got angry because he underestimated them and one of them attacked him. But suddenly the one who launched himself to attack the protagonist was against the wall and his head collided with the protagonist's hand, who grabbed him and slammed him against the wall. The protagonist said 1. And another pulled out a gun to fire, but in the blink of an eye, 2 more were lying on the ground, knocked out. The protagonist said 2 and 3, and to finish him off, he gave the last one an upward kick from behind, sending him flying into a trash can. At that moment, the girl called the police and explained what happened. They arrested the guys and took them away. The girl thanked him for what he did, and he told her not to thank him, that it was the right thing to do. Since he had put on a sweater so they wouldn't be seen, the girl he saved could only see his red eyes at that hour of the night. But when the girl tried to ask him his name, the moment she blinked, the protagonist was gone. While the protagonist took advantage of the fact that no one was looking and that the girl was about to blink, he disappeared and reappeared on top of a building. He felt that he would see that girl again soon and that she would bring him a lot of problems and adventures and that he would meet more people, even though he didn't like it. He felt that he would have to socialize with some young people. They looked their age, although if they knew that he was older than them, the protagonist left the place with the thought that he was being abandoned in this world that he created and that God the Father would leave him in charge of it. Part 13. New school and getting to know more about this world. After our protagonist helped that girl, he went home, where he started thinking that the neighbors had probably mistaken him for a school student, since it would be strange to see a boy his age not going to school, even though the protagonist was older than everyone there. He had to keep up appearances. But as soon as he did, he caught the attention of all the students, although some who thought they were the popular kids in school liked to bother him, but with a murderous look so they wouldn't get near him, but others who didn't understand nicely, he had to tell them to stay still and then, since they didn't want to get near him anymore, some who were gang members. But he didn't like some blonde boys who were 3 years younger than others and thought they were the most perfect, saying they were the best in the school. He didn't like the arrogant attitude of those two because they reminded him of his former brothers and he would raise them the way their parents hadn't. Because the two brats solved a lesson that made them afraid to be near him and brought them down a peg or two. During these months at school, Issei earned the nickname Lone Wolf Prince. The wolf part came from his cold, serious, and hostile demeanor, like a wolf if you angered him. The prince part referred to his good manners and willingness to help anyone in need without asking for anything in return. The lone part meant he was always alone and didn't like being around others. He was also the smartest student in school, consistently getting top grades, and the best athlete, though he didn't join any sports teams because he disliked the two-faced nature of some students. He remembered how some weak or nerdy students were bullied for their appearance or weight, and he would defend them. And he helped them find other schools where they wouldn't be bothered, and he helped them with the money so they could change schools, and they weren't bothered anymore. Until one day, during recess, he was in the courtyard, up in a tree reading a book, but suddenly the same group of bullies arrived to bother him with those two brats. But before they could watch a movie that would end in less than a minute, a limousine appeared out of nowhere and a girl named Kaori got out. That's what she looked like. She said if it was Issei, the protagonist. He saw her and recognized her as the girl he had saved from those thugs a few months ago. He asked how she knew about him and she said she had taken the time to investigate him. She also recognized him by his eyes and noted that he was the only one with that kind of necklace. He was a little surprised, but it was to be expected since the girl arrived in a limousine, which meant she had a lot of money or influence to investigate someone. That kind of detail. Issei. So why were you looking for me? Kaori. It's so you can join my academy, it's the same one they told Yaya about in the anime. The protagonist remembered that he did some research on academies in this world and found that this was an elite academy and that if you study there your future is assured. Kaori. Also, it's to thank you for what you did for me that time. Issei. Not that I mean to offend you, but it's not for outstanding students and I don't think I fit the description of students to be in your academy, but before he could say anything else he was interrupted. Because of those two arrogant brats saying that if he didn't want to go to the academy they would take his place, but Kaori interrupted them and told them that she would not allow people like them who spend their time bothering Issei since he arrived at the school, and also because of their attitudes towards others since at her academy they value personality and not academic grades. She grabbed Issei's hands, though the protagonist didn't like the grip and suddenly wanted to pull away reluctantly. But the girl said she would show him the academy so he could see what it was like and make a decision. He sighed and agreed to go, knowing the girl wouldn't give up. He got into the girl's limousine and drove off, though the brats were upset by the humiliation and would get their revenge. If those brats only knew that if they really anger the protagonist, he'll teach them the lesson of their lives and they won't like seeing an angry wolf. In another scene change we can see our protagonist in the director's office where the director is, and not only that he was Kaori's father, that surprised the protagonist a little but not much, since nothing was noticeable on his face. The director thanked him for saving his daughters from those thugs. The protagonist said there was nothing to thank him for, that anyone could have done it. The director just laughed and said that was the point. Anyone could have done something, but while others watched or did nothing, he did something, and that's why special people like him wanted him at his academy. The protagonist said he couldn't accept since it was for very intelligent or prestigious people, and maybe he wasn't all that great, although we know he only lied so they wouldn't be watching him too closely, since they feel that many things are overcome with his presence there. And that the girl would bring him one or two problems, although he could feel that both the girl and the man would not stop insisting until he at least gave the academy a chance and saw what the place was like so that he could decide whether to stay, or he had no other option than to spend the day at the academy so that he could make a decision. Part 14. New school, getting to know more about this new world. Returning to our protagonist at Issei Academy, he was still with the principal and Kaori. Issei. I don't mean to be rude, sir, but I don't think I belong here. This is an elite academy for people who can afford it. Director. Young Issei, don't underestimate yourself. This academy seeks people with potential and values. Answer this question, which is for you, genius. Issei. Anyone would say that a genius is someone who can do everything, but for me, a genius is someone who learns and knows how to quickly use what they've learned to help others. That's my answer from my point of view. Director. That's exactly what this academy is, young Issei. I'm only asking you to spend the day here, and if you like it, you can stay and let me know so I can arrange your transfer. Besides, since you saved my daughter, you won't have to pay the academy's tuition. What do you think? He said calmly with a smile, waiting for the protagonist's response. Issei. That's fine, since I know he won't stop insisting until I give this academy a chance, he said with a resigned sigh, hoping that none of this would be problematic. That answer pleased Kaori and her father, and the director said. Director. Splendid young Issei, and I hope you have a good time at Issei Academy today. Let me know if you'd like to stay, and one of our teachers will guide you around the place. You may come in, Professor Saida. The teacher came in through the door and this is what she looks like. Saida. Hello director, this is the young man I have to guide, right? Director. That's right, he's Issei, he said, introducing our protagonist. Issei. It's a pleasure to meet you, sensei, he said, bowing politely. Saida. What a polite young man, although you look older than my students. Issei. I get told that a lot, so how about we start the tour now? Saida. Okay, let's go. I assure you that you will like the academy. He said this as the two of them left the principal's office and gave her a tour of all the academy's facilities until they arrived at the classroom and she entered and all the students paid attention to what their sensei would say. Saida. Alright guys, pay attention, today we'll have a new classmate. I want you to treat him well. You can come in. Our protagonist opened the door and entered the classroom, drawing the attention of all the students who stared at him in amazement until he stood next to the teacher and introduced himself. Issei. My name is Issei, and I hope we can all get along. He said this while bowing politely to all the students, but even after he finished, they were all still staring at him, which made the protagonist uncomfortable. Excuse me, but why are you looking at me like that? Is there something on my face or what? Student. Nothing, Issei-san, just your face, she said it very red. Issei. Yes. What's wrong with my face? Student. It's just that we were surprised to see someone as handsome as you. The protagonist just made a blank face, sighing because he always attracted attention no matter where he went. Saida. Well, Issei, you can sit next to Miss Yuhin Haidu. Issei was a little surprised that the girl had the same last name as him in the past. It was an otherworldly and very strange revelation, and he didn't show it on his face. He saw a girl with short black hair with dark blue streaks and violet eyes raise her hand. She was the one the teacher had named. The protagonist nodded and went to sit next to the girl and introduced himself. Issei, it's a pleasure miss. I'm Issei. I hope we get along well. He said this while greeting the girl who saw him respectfully. Yukin Haidu, nice to meet you, Issei-san, he said it with little contempt on his face. Issei's pav. She's a bit expressionless, she reminds me of Kaneko's dwarf Nekomata, he thought to himself, but you can tell she's a good person. The teacher told them to take out their books because they would begin with math class, and she asked Yukin if she could lend her book to Issei so they could work together. The girl nodded and moved her desk closer to Issei's so he could see the book better, and they began working on the exercises the teacher told them to do. After a few hours and a few minutes had passed since the class was ending, he was thinking about something. Issei pav. The classes and topics are the same as in any normal high school, although with a slightly higher economic level, in addition to the different subjects and clubs that exist here for different interesting academic activities. This place is quieter than the other high schools I've been to. And more than anything, I don't have to deal with those two scandalous blonde brats, and even more so with the traitors, and especially with those from the occult club, even if I have to go back there, since I have to do my job. Besides, they would suspect something about me, and I don't want to have problems with those idiots, the protagonist of the situation thought to himself. Although I must visit Lexia again since she might worry about me and I feel like I don't want that, could it be that I'm falling completely in love with her? She said this with a slight pink tint appearing on her cheeks that no one noticed until the bell rang, and she had to come out of her thoughts as it was the lunchtime bell. Many of his classmates approached him and bombarded him with questions, asking if he played a sport, if he had a girlfriend, and more. When he was about to answer, a light brown-haired boy said. Hey guys, leave him alone, can't you see you're making him uncomfortable with your questions? The Alno saw the situation and apologized to Issei, who accepted their apology graciously. Issei. Thank you, but who are you? Boy. I'm Igarashi Ryo, but you can call me Ryo to make it easier, he said with a calm smile. Issei. Nice to meet you Ryo-san, I'm Issei. Ryo, nice to meet you Issei. I hope we get along well. How about we go to the cafeteria to eat before it gets too crowded? He said this smiling at the protagonist, who gave a small smile and nodded. The two walked through the cafeteria and Issei was a little surprised by the menu, as it was very large and everything looked delicious, besides being inexpensive. Ryo mentioned that they changed the menu daily and always gave away a free dish, which the protagonist found somewhat interesting. They ordered what they wanted to eat, and while they were looking for a table, a boy with very short black hair and glasses named Shingo Kurata called out to Ryo. Ryo. Hello Shingo, this is Issei. Issei is my friend Shingo Kurata, he said, introducing both boys. Issei. A pleasure Shingo-san. Shingo. Likewise, Issei-san, the boy returned the greeting. Issei and Ryo sat down next to Shingo, and the three of them started eating, although the protagonist continued to attract everyone's attention in the cafeteria. Shingo. Issei-san, what clubs are you in? Issei. In none, although I'm good at all of them. Which club are you guys in? Ryo. I'm in the early going club, the brown-haired boy explained while eating his rice. Well, it's because I'm good at sports, and since I can't decide which one to choose, I'm not picking anything. Shingo. I'm in the video game club, while showing the protagonist his portable console. Issei was a little surprised that they allowed those things at school, and the three of them played a few games until it was time for the end of classes, and the protagonist went to talk to the principal about whether or not he would stay at the academy. Director. And what did you think of the academy, young Issei? Issei. It really is a beautiful place, peaceful and everything is very orderly, the classes are easy to understand, and the teachers are nice, and the students are good people, and you can tell they help each other and have fun while learning, and the facilities are very large. Director. Wonderful, I'm glad you like the academy and have already made your decision. Issei, I still don't think I'm worthy to be here sir. Director. Issei, remember what I told you this morning, that your own worth comes from yourself and not from what others say or think about you, and you are more than worthy to come here. Issei. Thank you, Director, for your words. I will take them into account. And thank you for letting me spend this day at your academy. I think I will accept your offer. He said this while giving a small smile to the director, who shook Issei's hand. Director. Then welcome to the academy, young Issei. I hope you have a good time on this new path in your life. After that, Issei said goodbye to the director and left the place, where he met Kaori. Kaori. Hello Issei-kun, have you made a decision yet? Issei. Miss Haoju, if I did it, I'll stay at the academy. Kaori. I'm glad to hear that. I know you enjoy studying here and if you have time, I'd like you to come with me somewhere to celebrate your admission to the academy. Issei. Okay, your proposal sounds interesting. So the two of them left the academy and went to an upper class area near the academy that everyone liked to go to after classes. Issei. This place seems very fun and lively, you should have a good time with your friends. Kaori. Well, I don't have many friends, because of my dad's job and our upper class background at the academy, all the students are a bit distant and polite around me. Issei. I see. After what Kaori said, she led Issei to a stall that sold very delicious crepes, and the two of them bought some, even though it was a bit expensive. Issei was grateful to have the ability to create whatever he wanted, but he asked Kaori a question. Issei. Excuse me, Haoju-san, but how did you recognize me? I was very well covered up, making it impossible for anyone to recognize me. Kaori. Well, it was because of your eyes, so unique, so gentle and kind, but I sensed some sadness and pain in them, but I also saw a great heart full of kindness, she said, looking the protagonist in the eyes while she smiled. Issei was surprised by the girl's words and only blushed slightly when she stared at him, as he felt that her words were honest, and even more so because he saw that she had a pure heart and was a very good person. Issei. I appreciate your words, Haoju-san. Kaori. You're welcome, Issei-kun, but now that we're comfortable with each other, you can call me by my name, Kaori, please. Issei. Okay Kaori-chan, he said, giving the girl a sweet and sincere smile. She blushed at the protagonist's smile, and so he wouldn't notice her blush, she gave him some of her crepe. Kaori blushed even more when Issei bit into the side she had chosen, thinking it was a kind of indirect kiss. Issei didn't realize this, so he gave her some of his crepe and she kissed him back. Everyone was watching them, saying they made a cute couple. After that, they said goodbye to each other. Issei returned home and entered through the portal, appearing in Lexia's room. She had barely entered when she rushed to hug him, who was already showing his ears, tail, and wings, while Lexia kissed his cheeks and mouth. The protagonist didn't mind, as he was used to Lexia's kisses. She pulled away slightly and told him she missed him a lot and that he should visit her more often, while pouting a little, showing how cute and angry she was with him. He simply apologized and said he would, and that now that he was here they could spend time together. She was happy to hear that and kissed Issei, and he gladly returned the kiss since he already admitted that Lexia, in such a short time knowing this world and the other, had fallen in love with him. But he wasn't ready to tell her yet, since he still had painful memories of what happened with the Gremorys and the factions and the others. But now he had a chance to be happy and he wouldn't waste it, whatever happened, happened. But Lexia snapped him out of his thoughts as it was time for dinner with his father. The king had also grown fond of the protagonist, and the three of them had dinner. Issei told them about the other world and what they had experienced there, although Lexia and the king didn't quite understand the modern world and the recognition of that world. Issei explained that it was due to a different kind of magic. After dinner, Issei and Lexia went to sleep, and as always, Lexia used the protagonist as a pillow. She stroked his head and ears, and Issei began to feel comfortable until he fell asleep. Lexia smiled at seeing him sleep so peacefully. She gently placed a weight on his forehead as if to say goodnight to Issei, and then she began to drift off to sleep herself. Part 15. Getting to know more about this world, new friend. Issei could be seen already awake at home having breakfast. Issei. What should I do now? I'll have to return to the faction since I can't take off this stupid collar Azazel put on me, because he could track me. He made it with part of my DNA and must have used my father's to make it so strong. If it weren't for the camouflage spell, it would be a hassle to explain why he's wearing a dog collar. Although I need to buy new clothes now because I can't always wear the same ones, although I could make them with magic, I want to go out for a while and get some fresh air. After finishing breakfast, she went out to see what she could buy, since she remembered that after what happened with the traders, she had hardly any clothes other than her old school uniform, her current academy uniform, and the clothes she wore when she went to Lexia's world. So she needed to improve her wardrobe, even though she attracted a lot of attention on the streets because of her appearance and attractiveness. She arrived at the shopping center and started looking for clothes in her size, but some of the staff there were talking to her. Manager. Excuse me, sir, do you need help finding a specific style or size? Manager 2. If you'd like, we can help you. Issei. Yes, I'm fine, don't worry. If I need anything, I'll let you know. He said it politely and courteously, making the two girls blush at his manners. He seemed like a prince or a knight. Meanwhile, on the other side, there were some people from a modeling agency having a photo shoot in the same shopping center as the protagonist. The director in charge of the shoot, named Hiraku, was very annoyed. Hiraku. This can't be happening. We've been stressed out for an hour already, and the model who's supposed to be the boyfriend in the photos hasn't even arrived. The theme is supposed to be a couple having a special day at the mall, but that guy hasn't shown up. He said it angrily because the girl playing his girlfriend was punctual, especially since she'd been waiting for him since morning. They were supposed to start the session early to finish on time, as everyone had commitments afterward. Meanwhile, the girl modeling for the lesson returned to see the commotion Hiraku was making, as she was looking at her phone waiting for her fellow model to call or tell her whether or not he was coming to the session. Until Mr. Hiraku spoke to the model manager, asking about the delay, well the manager only apologized for the situation. Hiraku. It's incredibly unprofessional for a model to not arrive at the agreed upon time, and to make matters worse, he made us wait. We've been here all morning, and we all have other things to do. He knows perfectly well that this isn't the first time he's been late. He said it, still annoyed by the delay, while the manager apologized and said he would contact his client when the director left, fed up with the situation, and to move forward with this and not waste time waiting for the other model. He told his staff to find someone who was already in the market and who was the right person to help them. Everyone nodded and they left. Meanwhile, the protagonist was descending the escalator when, by sheer chance, Hiraku happened to be passing by, looking for someone who could help them with their problem. He saw the protagonist and realized he was the perfect person to help. After stopping him and explaining the situation, the protagonist considered it, sighed, and agreed, as it was clear the man in front of him wouldn't stop insisting until he accepted. Besides the fact that it would be interesting to see and do the work of a model, although he felt it might bring him some future problems, he remembered that his father always told him that if he could help someone in need, he should do it, since it shows his values and personality as a person, so he accepted Mr. Haraku's proposal and introduced him to the model who would be his partner in the photoshoot. The girl introduced herself as Miu Midu and said she hoped to get along well with him on this job. Issei saw her and thought she was a good and kind person, so he simply nodded, shaking her hand as a sign of agreement that they would make a good team. From there, the photoshoot began. All the pictures turned out well, especially the changes of clothes at each moment, the locations, the poses, and the smiles, showing how much fun they were having, like a real couple, until they took a break. The protagonist was sitting on a bench drinking some water, and Miu sat next to him. Miu. What did you think of the section so far, Issei-kun? Issei. That was interesting, Midu-san. I've never done anything like this before, and being one of the center of attention is kind of strange. You? What do you mean? You're a good person, you must have been very popular, since you're very kind, and helping people you don't know isn't something just anyone would do. Issei. In that you may be right, my life has always been full of problems, it wasn't because I looked for them, rather they looked for me. You. And your family didn't help you with that? Issei. My family never cared, to them I was a nuisance, and their only pride was my younger brothers. You hate them for what they did to you in the past. Issei. The truth is, yes, because I'd be lying if I didn't hate them. What they did to me doesn't justify it, and I certainly can't forgive them overnight. We used to be very close, but from one day to the next, we weren't. You don't always have to be the good guy, because there will always be people who will let you down, and it's better not to get too attached, because that way it will be less painful if they betray you. You. I'm so sorry, Issei-san, I shouldn't have asked that. I know it brings back bad memories. Issei. It doesn't matter if I decided to share a little about my life, it's because I wanted to and I feel you're someone I can trust. I don't feel that much trust in many people, especially not people I barely know. But putting that aside, you like being a model. You. The truth is, yes, because I've always loved fashion. My parents were very busy and barely paid attention to me, and one day I managed to become a model. At first, I made mistakes, but I adapted to it. And it makes me happy that people like fashion and that it inspires them, because it makes me feel that I'm not only helping the magazine, but also inspiring others, and that makes me happy. Issei. That's good, doing what you love. It shows on your face that you enjoy it a lot. But before they could continue, a blonde boy appeared, speaking to Miu and ignoring the protagonist's presence. The boy crouched down, almost sitting on the ground, apologizing for being late to the photo shoot with an arrogant, conceited smile on his face. She asked him why he hadn't answered their calls and his managers. The boy replied that it was because he'd had too much to drink the night before, which was why he hadn't answered. The boy told her that now that he was there, they hated starting the session, to which the girl replied that they had finished without him. The boy didn't believe her, so he stood up and cornered her, saying that after the session they could go get something to eat. The girl refused, saying she had things to do afterward and that thanks to him, everyone had wasted a lot of time waiting for him. The boy asked her why she had avoided him the last time they met, getting closer to her and scaring her. Issei could see and noticed that Miu was very uncomfortable with the boy's presence, as it seemed he was harassing her, and he could sense Miu's fear, since he could smell her emotions, and it was fear, due to the presence of the blonde boy. Issei. They told you to leave her alone, it's obvious you're making her uncomfortable. The boy and I turned to look at Issei, as did the other people who were watching the situation, and the conceited Ruby, named Sean, asked. Sean. And who the hell are you to talk to me like that, do you even know who I am? Issei. I don't care who you are, I just know that you make Midu-san uncomfortable and scare her by invading her personal space, and should I know who you are? Sean. I'm one of the most important models in this magazine, and you're an incompetent busybody they used as a temporary replacement for me until I arrived, so get lost or you'll regret it. Issei. Seriously, someone as conceited and arrogant as you is a model? I only see a stalker, since it's obvious you're harassing Miss Midu. Besides being irresponsible in your work as a model and a hexist for treating her like that, I don't see a model, I see a troublemaker like you. The blonde boy got angry at the way Issei spoke to him, and before he could move, he slipped on Miu's handkerchief, which she was going to lend Issei to wipe his sweat, but because of Sean's arrival and his harassment of her, she dropped the handkerchief, and the blonde boy took advantage of this to try to punch the protagonist in the face. But Issei was smarter and faster than the blonde boy. Seeing how slow the attack was, he moved to the side, grabbed the blonde boy's arm, and slammed his body to the ground. He made sure not to use too much force so as not to break any of his bones, since they were in public and he shouldn't attract everyone's attention in the mall. The blonde boy was getting up, somewhat sore from the tremendous blow he had just received. Wondering how Issei did that, since he practiced fighting, it would have been difficult for the protagonist to dodge, but his thoughts were interrupted by Hiraku. He arrived and showed Sean that he had recorded everything and had no proof to say that it was Issei who attacked him when it was the blonde who attacked first. Although he tried to say otherwise, there were many witnesses who saw what happened, how he harassed Miu, and how the protagonist only defended her. And it was in self-defense what Issei did to the blonde boy who attacked him first. The boy just stood up and left, followed by his handler, since he no longer wanted to be there and endure such humiliation from the protagonist. After the blonde boy left, everyone was used to his behavior, although they hadn't expected him to go so far. Hiraku apologized to Miu for not knowing the blonde boy was harassing her. She said it was okay, that it wasn't her fault. And that thanks to Issei defending her from Sean, the problem didn't escalate. Hiraku explained that because of this in the video, he would show it to the boss so that the blonde man would no longer work with him since he couldn't accept what he did, especially for the company, as it made them look bad due to his irresponsibility and aggressive behavior. Miu hoped this would be achieved by not having to see the blonde man. With that, the session ended and they thanked him for his help. Hiraku then offered him a job at the magazine. Since I saw potential in the protagonist and his natural way of acting, the protagonist refused because he didn't feel very capable of doing something like that, and Hiraku and Miu accepted since they couldn't force him to do something he didn't want to do. But Hiraku said that at least they should let him be paid for what he did for them. They told him that he couldn't offer him money because, since he wasn't an official model, it wouldn't be good for his work and the magazine shouldn't pay someone who has little experience and doesn't officially work for them. So he said he would pay him in another way and showed him many bags of clothes, saying he had already checked that they were his size, something the protagonist refused to accept, being given such expensive clothes, especially considering the quantity of everything. Hiraku smiled and pleaded with him to accept this as his payment for what he did for them, since in the working world, you always deserve something for your efforts. Issei had no choice but to accept, since Miu and Hiraku wouldn't stop insisting. And he accepted it with a smile, and they hoped to work with him again at some other time, which Issei accepted with a small smile. A while later, some of the Hiraku staff were with him and Miu in a van, talking about the protagonist while looking at the photos. Hiraku. It's a shame Issei didn't want to accept the modeling job. He would undoubtedly be one of the best because of his personality and that unique spark that characterized him. But if he didn't accept, it's his decision. We can't force him to do something he doesn't want to do. But she saw that Miu wasn't paying attention to her and was looking at the tablet where the photos of her and Issei were, something she said without thinking. Miu. Issei-kun intrigues me. He's a mysterious person who keeps many secrets and I'd like to know more about him. Hiraku. I see, it seems you like to say a little too much, for your face is red. Suddenly Miu heard what Hiraku said, well she realized at the same time and turned even redder with embarrassment and tried to hide it, which was difficult as it was very obvious, which made everyone in the car start to laugh a little at the situation. While the protagonist was at home thinking about how interesting his day had been being a model and meeting Miu, seeing all the clothes and things he'd been given, he could only say that it had been a long day full of problems, but also fun. So he tidied everything up to go to sleep and see what other adventures or problems awaited him tomorrow. Part 16. New pet and companion. It was a peaceful day for our protagonist, although he always wished that days could be this normal, without having to fight with anyone or deal with other people's problems, and even less being bothered by unspeakable people. He was looking at the garden of his otherworldly home, practicing with the weapons of that place. Issei. Why can't every day be like this, so peaceful? Ugh. He sighed a little. Ah well, not all the time can be like this, although there is a part of the forest that I haven't explored. He got up from his spot and crossed the vine, venturing closer and closer to the forest until he heard a noise and saw a kind of wounded wolf cub on the ground, about to be devoured by an ogre. Issei couldn't leave the poor little furry pup alone with that thing. He saw that the thing's level was 250, the ogre's level, but the wolf's was only 150. He was at a clear disadvantage, so in a swift movement, Issei summoned the spear he had been practicing with at home and threw it with all his might. The arrow pierced the ogre's chest, killing him instantly and turning him into particles, leaving the reward for the protagonist. The protagonist approached the wolf pup, who, though initially reluctant to let Issei near, saw his good intentions and allowed him to heal. After healing the wolf pup, Issei was about to leave, but noticed the pup following him. Issei considered adopting the pup as his familiar, a suggestion the wolf liked. The wolf saw on its stat screen that the pup was a Fenrir, so it gave it a name. It would be called Nig because of his fur as dark as night, something he discovered. His partner is female, which he didn't mind, so he told her that she would now be on his team, something that Nig just happily thief, giving his paw to the protagonist, as if he were losing his hand. Issei. Well, time to go home, but then something came out from between some trees and it was a beam of energy, which he stopped with his hand. What the heck was that? From among the trees and bushes emerged a kind of strange deer, which attacked Neat, who managed to dodge it, striking the deer in the eyes. It was a deer larger than normal, and its antlers were very large and made of two elements. Its magic was fire and ice, and it launched beams of these two energies, which it could see stored in its antlers when it attacked. Issei stared intently at his partner, and they nodded in agreement, exchanging attacks until, at one point, Issei used his spear to pierce the deer's chest. It was clear the deer was strong, and if Neat had been alone with it, she wouldn't have stood a chance. The animal fell to the ground dead, leaving the bounty behind and turning into particles. Issei. Uff, that was tough, not too long but it was interesting, though I should get back home and go to the academy. He carried his companion in his arms and disappeared from the place at great speed, returning to his home where he got ready to go to the academy where everything was a normal class. Already during recess, our protagonist was watching his classmates play soccer when a girl named Kid Kazama, one of his classmates, approached him. This is what she looks like. Kid. Issei-kun, I'm sorry to bother you, but why are you playing with the others on the court? She said this while sitting in the stands next to the protagonist. Issei. Oh, hello Kazama-san. I'm not doing it because I don't have the physical evacuation uniform yet. Besides, I don't think I'm as good as the others. That's all. He said it calmly. Kid. I see, Issei-kun, but you don't need to call me Kazama. You can just call me Kid, she said, pointing to herself, while winking playfully. The protagonist just smiled a little at the girl's attitude. Then, at one point, a Runji boy was about to kick the ball and send it towards the goal, but he missed, heading instead towards the protagonist and his classmate. Suddenly, Issei moved, stopping the ball and sending it flying towards the goal, stunned by the game. This surprised everyone with his reaction speed. At that moment, he worried about the girl and asked if she was alright. Issei. Are you alright, Kid-san? He said, looking at the girl and offering her his hand to help her stand up and relax, and to ease the shock of the moment. Kid. Why yes, I'm fine, she said blushing because of the protagonist's attitude. The blonde man arrived in one fell swoop and knelt in front of Kid. Boy. I'm so sorry for almost hurting a beautiful lady like you, I'll serve you with my life to fix my mistake. Kid. It's not necessary, it was an Descendant, don't worry, none of that is necessary. He said it nervously, moving his hands, trying to stop the other man from humiliating himself further over something that wasn't entirely his fault, but a mere coincidence that could have happened to anyone. The young man thanked Issei and told him he was a gentleman for what he did in saving Kid, and said it was a pleasure to meet him, adding that perhaps they hadn't been introduced before. He then said his name was Akira Ichinus. Akira. I am Akira Ichinus, and maybe you heard that I'm concentrating on the night dome here. He said it in a somewhat extravagant pose. This made everyone wince because of the boy's attitude. Ryo told Issei that Akira was just like that, so he shouldn't take what he said too seriously. Besides, even though he was a bit strange, he was a good guy, something Issei said he noticed, and that was good. Then everyone laughed, and Akira did too. Issei Pav. Everyone is different from anyone I've ever met in my life, and they've treated me well. I feel like they're people I can trust. I feel like I'm starting to feel what you thought died a long time ago inside me. Happiness. He said it smiling and letting out a few small laughs, which surprised everyone since it was the first time they had seen him laugh. They found Issei's laugh pleasant, and the girls blushed at his smile and the sparkle in his eyes when he smiled. After that, and after the other classes, he asked his friends if they could help him with anything. He said he had a pet, a little dog, and since he had never had a pet before, he didn't know what it needed. He'd offered to accompany him to the shops near the academy, and there was a pet shop there. Doran could get what he needed for his dog. After saying goodbye to the others and going to the shops with Kid, he had everything ready in no time. He said goodbye to Kid and went home. He tried on Neeg's collar and asked if it was too tight. It was black, and Neeg just smiled and said they would go for a walk in the park for a while. Which they did, but Issei felt somewhat uncomfortable because of the looks people were giving him and his little dog. This was because it wasn't common to see such an attractive young man, who looked like a model or movie star, walking around with a cute little dog. First he met Kaori, she was there and they talked for a bit and I asked him what breed his dog was. He just said he had found her, since he didn't want to give many details about it, and he gave Neeg several pats, who just smiled and barked happily at the girl's caresses, and Kaori said that she had very soft fur. Then Issei heard someone calling him and saw it was Mew. He greeted her and lent her to Kaori. Mew said she was surprised to see him there, since she liked walking through that park because she lived nearby. She said she had to go because they were attracting a lot of attention and hoped to see him there another day so they could talk more calmly. The girl left and Kaori asked him where he knew a model like Mew from. He said she was a student model in fashion magazines and he said he met her at the mall while she was shopping for clothes for him. That's when they asked for his help with a photo shoot as they needed someone because their model was running late and they had other things to do and he helped them out. She said they must get along very well, that she was a very nice girl for him and asked if they were a couple. He said no, he wouldn't be worthy of being with a girl like her and Kaori told him not to say that, it wasn't true, that any girl would like to be with someone as good and kind as him. But they both stopped when they heard a thief stealing a purse from a woman who was screaming for help. People were shocked. Issei saw this and told his companion need to deal with the thief and the pup nodded to her master's command and went after the man. Issei approached the lady and asked if she was alright and she said, "Ma'am. Thank you so much for your help, young man, but my purse and my things are already lost. I don't think that thief will be caught." Issei, I wouldn't say that ma'am. Don't lose hope. My little dog, Neat, already took care of the side of your bag. She said it while looking at a part where everyone was surprised to see her dragging the thief who couldn't break free from her grip while everyone was amazed by such a feat. Issei. See, I told you there was hope. Hope is the last thing to be lost. Kaori, call the police. When the girl took out her phone to call the police and come and arrest the thief, he didn't like the idea and pulled a knife from his jacket and tore a part of it to break free from her grip, succeeding. The thief, annoyed by the situation, wasn't going to be caught easily. With no other options and driven by his hatred for having his escape and plan ruined, he launched an attack on Kaori. The girl, overcome with fear, only found solace and with a terrified look, she screamed, expecting the worst. But Issei was faster, moving quickly and firmly grabbing the arm of the man with the knife, which he intended to use to harm Kaori. Issei twisted the man's arm in the opposite direction, grabbing his other arm and pulling him to the ground, immobilizing him in a hold. This surprised everyone with the speed, strength, agility, and ease with which the protagonist defeated the thug. After a while, they handed the man over to the police. They thanked Issei for controlling the situation. The woman also thanked him for what he did for her, and after that, Kaori hugged Issei and thanked him for saving her. She said, "Thank you twice. The first time is when he saved her from those thugs who wanted to hurt her, and the second time is now." He told her there was nothing to thank her for, and she said that on both occasions he was still the same kind and gentle person who helps those in need, and she hoped that would never change. She smiled and said goodbye to him. Issei just smiled at Kaori's words and went back home with Neat, who fed her. She liked the food her master made for her, and he stroked her face, smiling. Issei. I'm glad you liked it, Neat. Today was a very interesting day, although soon I'll have to return to my old dimension, he said with a heavy sigh, because even though he didn't want to, he couldn't let the factions continue ruining that dimension, which is something his father God left him and which he had to take care of, and he promised and wouldn't break that promise. How much I miss you, father, how I need your wisdom, especially in such difficult times as those I sometimes have with those traitors. Although I met truly good people who did care about me, I'm starting to feel emotions like love and happiness again. I just hope I never have to suffer like I did before. Then they'll get ready to sleep with Neat and see what adventures await them tomorrow. Part 17. Getting to know a friend and murderer. It was a normal day for our protagonist. He was thinking that in a few days he had to return to the DXD dimension, since he was quite sure they would soon realize he wasn't in his room and would be frantically searching for him, and he didn't want to put up with that. After all, there was a chance they could find a way to discover how he left and follow him to Lexia's kingdom. Although he wondered if they might get lost in the woods near his home, knowing the kind of monsters that lived there, it wouldn't be surprising if one of them tried to eat a Gremory's. But he didn't want the factions near Lexia, since he knew their selfish and power-hungry nature, and they might try to conquer Lexia's kingdom, and he didn't want to put innocent people in danger because of his mistake. And even more so for Lexia, since she wanted to imagine what he would do to the factions if they dared to touch her. Without a doubt, the supernatural world would know true terror. It wouldn't be the Trihexa, but she shook her head, banishing those troubling thoughts. They weren't good for her, but that didn't mean she wouldn't be alert to what might happen. So he got ready to go to the academy and had breakfast, leaving Knight's lunch for him to eat throughout the day he wouldn't be at the academy. The day passed normally for the protagonist, and he saw Kaori through the window. She greeted him with a smile, and he only returned the greeting with a small smile that only she could see. But except for some delinquents who were a motorcycle gang, they entered the place, making a lot of noise and commotion surrounding the girls who were in the physical education field, who were scared, and the teacher was defending his students. The protagonist was serious when he saw that those guys were the most dangerous gang of delinquents in the area, especially when he saw two blonde boys he knew, who were the ones who tried to bully him at the school on that estate. But he never let them get away with it and always gave those brats what they deserved. It seemed like their parents had never raised them properly. But he snapped out of his thoughts when he heard the teacher. "Teacher?" Everyone stay in the classroom, don't go out. I'll tell the principal to call the police. He quickly left the room while everyone else was worried and didn't know what to think, much less what to do in this situation. Issei Pav. Seriously, why do those bleached blonde brats keep bothering us and bringing that gang of idiots along with them? I already have an idea why they're here. Meanwhile, Kaori was defending her companions. Kaori. You have no business being here. The teachers will already be calling the police to arrest you. One of the blonde twins said that she must be Kaori, the headmaster's daughter of this academy. Kaori remembered that they were the boys who had been bothering Issei. Kaori. Why are they burning this? The two brats said they wanted to feel better by making their lives miserable. They should be ashamed for letting in a nobody like Issei, who has no family or anything, while they had everything, and getting revenge on them will be the most fun thing in the world. Kaori. Even if that's it, the police won't take long to arrive, you'd better stop. Ino, one of the kids, said that the police might take a while and they could do other things, like kidnap her. The girl's brother confirmed what his sister said. Although their problem was with Issei, they're content with this. The thugs approach Kaori carrying metal bats. The teacher who was with Kaori and the girls tries to stop them. The students on the upper floors watch this, worried about the situation. Ryo. This doesn't look good at all. Boy 2. What are we supposed to do? Issei stood up. He wanted to help Kaori and the others, but he felt something inside. The negative words of the people he trusted had hurt him more than once. And that affected his self-esteem a little, but he reasoned that he couldn't let himself be overwhelmed by those things. He wasn't the same Issei he used to be. He had the power to help others in his hands, and he shouldn't be afraid, not now. He approached the window while everyone watched expectantly to see what he would do, but they saw him open the window and turn to look at his companions. Issei. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. 1.2k. The protagonist jumps out the window and lands on his feet without a scratch. He runs quickly, but one of the thugs blocks his path. The thug says, how could someone with nothing like him get into this school? He'll punish him. And orders his men to attack. Issei quickly dodges and easily disarms them. Leaving all the thugs without their weapons to attack him, the other one, who was the leader, launched an attack on the protagonist, saying that he would leave him unrecognizable. Issei. Don't get in my way, I'm in a hurry. He said this while quickly dodging him because he had to go to Kaori, who was clearly scared, especially since those guys wanted to take her away. At that moment, the thug stepped aside, revealing one of their members, a very strong, large man, who declared that his speed and cunning would be useless against his immense strength. He launched an attack on the chestnut-haired man, who stopped him with one hand and sent him flying, causing the giant to crash into one of the motorcycles. Issei. I'm sorry, but I don't like wasting time. He said it with a serious look and a calm voice. As he walked forward, serious and calm, the other thugs wondered who this guy was to do all that he did, while they stared at him in amazement, since they had let her go because they were afraid of the protagonist, and now Kaori was standing in front of Issei. Issei. Kaori, are you okay? Kaori. Yes, you're okay, Issei-kun. But they were interrupted by the sound of a motorcycle approaching them. They saw that the leader of the thugs, the Retagers, was driving like a maniac toward Issei, saying he wouldn't allow them to make fun of him. He tried to run them over, but Issei dodged him by jumping out of the way. The thug wanted more revenge on Issei for humiliating him, and that's why he was trying to run him over with a motorcycle. When I tried to hit him with the back of the motorcycle, Issei ducked, sweeping under the bike, then jumped high, dodging the other attack from the crazy blonde guy on the motorcycle. He was chasing him, but in his jump, Issei didn't notice he was heading towards the stands, crashing into one of the steps, causing him to lose control and the motorcycle to explode. Later we see the police arrest the entire gang. Issei. I'm sorry if you were scared when those guys surrounded you. Kaori. It's not your fault, Issei-kun. I wasn't scared at all. I knew you would save me, just like you saved me that time. She almost lost her balance, but Issei caught her in time. Everyone resumed their classes, calmer now that the situation was resolved and no one was hurt. One of the twin boys said the thugs he hired were pathetic, but the leader of the thugs overheard him, grabbed him by the neck, and lifted him up. He began to strangle the boy, saying it was his fault, while the girl screamed, begging him to let her brother go. The thug kicked her, sending her sprawling to the ground. While the police tried to control the situation, it was difficult because of the chaos the thugs were causing, especially since they had one of the blonde boys hostage, while the boy begged for help, pleading with someone to save him. Then Issei appears, holding the thug's arm and pulling the boy away, telling him to let go. The blonde boy and the thug fall to the ground from the force of the push the protagonist gave them to separate them. Issei. Leave the kid alone. Looking seriously at the bully who is upset and nervous about the situation, and Issei looked back at the brat who caused this, are you alright, kid? Worse, the bully gets up and lunges to attack him, but with just a glance from Issei, the guy is so stunned that the bully falls to the ground. Everyone watches in surprise as the protagonist did. A while later, having the situation under control, the two blondes ask why he saved them if they'd been bothering him ever since he arrived at their school. He said it was true, although he didn't forgive what they did to him, but the person who was his father said that no matter the situation he couldn't abandon those who needed him. The boy Yoro and the blonde boy's sister apologized to the protagonist. But in another, more specific place in the other dimension, a cantina could be seen, and a hooded man was talking to someone, a woman with silver hair and violet eyes named Luna. The man told her that someone was interfering with his plans to get rid of Lexia and told her to take care of that person. The girl nodded, saying she would. The girl disappeared while the hooded figure said that Lexia was going to pay dearly for what she did to him. In the scene change, our protagonist was with his partner Knight, patrolling the forest looking for a monster to kill in order to level up. But he remembered Owen's words. The place where the protagonist lived was called the Dark Region, and the monsters he easily defeated were capable of destroying an entire kingdom. Issei wondered how his father could live in this place surrounded by such creatures, though he knew it wouldn't be a problem for his father to eliminate them creatures, really. Issei. This day has been very quiet, Knight. We haven't found any monsters yet, apart from the weird brush for you and the bucket I can use as a hot water bottle. Knight stops, and the dark-haired boy becomes alert at the same time, hearing voices in the forest, more people, and a fight. The two went to the location and saw beasts attacking a silver-haired girl who was injured. Weakened, the protagonist and Knight launched an attack, cutting the beasts in half with their swords. After finishing off the last beast, Knight and Issei saw the girl. Issei took a healing potion from his inventory, preventing her from using it while Knight barked, as if to say the girl didn't give him any credit. Issei was sure he understood. He was concerned, but they couldn't leave her there. They would take her home and wait for her to wake up. Later, they would ask her why she was there at that hour in the Dark Region. That's how the protagonist carried the girl in his arms and took her away, while Knight continued to think that this girl would bring them some trouble. Although Issei felt the same feeling as Knight. Part 18. A friend or a murderer. Previously. The man told her that someone was interfering with his plans to get rid of Lexia and told her to take care of that person. The girl nodded, saying she would. The girl disappeared while the hooded figure said that Lexia was going to pay dearly for what she did to him. In a scene change, our protagonist was with his partner Knight, patrolling the forest looking for a monster to kill in order to level up. But he remembered Owen's words. The place where the protagonist lived was called the Dark Region, and the monsters he easily defeated were capable of destroying an entire kingdom. Issei wondered how his father could live in this place surrounded by such creatures, though he knew it wouldn't be a problem for his father to eliminate them creatures, really. Issei. This day has been very quiet, Knight. We haven't found any monsters yet, apart from the weird brush for you and the bucket I can use as a hot water bottle. Knight stops, and the dark-haired boy becomes alert at the same time, hearing voices in the forest, more people, and a fight. The two went to the location and saw beasts attacking a silver-haired girl who was injured. Weakened, the protagonist and Knight launched an attack, cutting the beasts in half with their swords. After finishing off the last beast, Knight and Issei saw the girl. Issei took a healing potion from his inventory, preventing her from using it while Knight barked, as if to say the girl didn't give him any credit. Issei was sure he understood. He was concerned, but they couldn't leave her there. They would take her home and wait for her to wake up. Later, they would ask her why she was there at that hour in the Dark Region. That's how the protagonist carried the girl in his arms and took her away, while Knight continued to think that this girl would bring them some trouble. Although Issei felt the same feeling as Knight. At that moment, the girl he was carrying in his arms began to wake up, which was noticed by Issei and Knight. "Girl. Where am I?" She said it weakly as the protagonist carried her in his arms and the sunset loomed over the horizon. When she realized she was being carried, she panicked, trying to break free from his grasp, but with so much squirming, she managed to slip out of Issei's arms, falling to the ground and hitting her head on a tree. While the girl clutched her head in pain, having hurt herself by not thinking the situation through, much less the state of her body. Issei. Don't be impulsive fighting those goblins. Even if I heal you, your body is still tired and weak. You could have hurt yourself more by falling like that. He said it seriously, using healing magic on the girl to heal her head injury. She was surprised by the former brunette's actions, since not many could do that, only those from the church. But she saw that he didn't have bad intentions because if he had, he would have taken advantage of her moment of weakness and killed her instead of healing her. Girl. Who are you? I don't think you're just anyone to have healed my wound so quickly. Issei. I'm Issei and I'm accompanied by my partner Knight. Although Knight was growling, it seemed he didn't like the girl's presence at all. The girl noticed Knight's aggression and asked what was wrong. Girl. My name is Luna, you don't have to be so formal with me. Issei. Okay Luna, it's a pleasure to meet you, but I need to ask you a few questions. Why were you in such a dangerous place? Luna. I was training but was surrounded by a pack of goblins, but where are the goblins that attacked me? Issei. Don't worry about that, Knight and I already took care of them. The girl was impressed to hear that, since there were many goblins and they were very dangerous for a normal person. She wondered how he managed to defeat all of them. Luna. That's amazing. I'm sorry, excuse my manners, I should be thanking you for saving me. But by the way, what are you doing here in the dark region? Issei. I was training just like you. Because I wanted to get stronger. That surprised Luna again. She hadn't expected to see someone training in the dark region. She said it in a low voice. He asked her what she'd said, but the girl, not wanting to give details, changed the subject. That made Issei doubt himself. He'd have one eye on her since the girl was giving him far more questions than answers. Luna. Issei, did you carry me all the way here? Issei. That's right. Luna. I'm so sorry. I must be dirty and sweaty from running and fighting with those goblins. Issei. Don't worry so much about that. That's not important right now. What's important is that you're alive and well. Luna. I'm so sorry, but I don't think I can return to the city in this condition. She said it sadly, covering herself as best she could out of shame. Then Issei had an idea and took her to a special waterfall nearby that had a cave so she could bathe in peace and quiet since it was a special waterfall because the water was warm like the hot springs in Japan. He put up a barrier to keep any monsters away from the cave and another to give Luna privacy while he sat down near a large rock to rest for a few moments. Issei. How about this one? Luna. This is incredible. I never thought a cave in the dark region could have such pure and hot water. Issei. I don't know all the places in this region, but it was good to get to know this one. I also gained this ability to create crystal barriers after defeating a monster. It was a crystal servant. Tamjin gave me a portal bath, but the waterfall was better since it's a more enclosed space and therefore more protected from being outdoors all the time. Luna was surprised that he had defeated such a monster. That explained why he was training in the dark region. Issei. Aren't you here for the same reason? She simply lowered her voice, her emotion somewhat serious, in response to his question. Luna. I came at the request of a client. Issei asked her to repeat what she'd said in a low voice, but she quickly changed the subject, unaware that he'd heard her perfectly. He had even more doubts about the girl, but decided to keep them to himself for the time being until he knew who she really was. Luna. Issei, wouldn't you like to stay with me and train in the dark region? I have to stay here for a while for something important. He saw that she didn't explain why she was there, much less why she wanted to stay. Issei thought that if she stayed there training alone, it could be dangerous, since no one knew what kind of dangerous monsters she might encounter on her own. Issei. Okay, I'll support you in your training. This makes the girl very happy, but the protagonist explains that she can't stay for long. She leaves to thank him, and Issei almost catches a glimpse of her naked, but without turning around, he tells her not to do that, giving her a light tap on the head with his tail. The girl rubs her head, saying that it shouldn't be like that. They'll train and fight all over anyway, so they'll sweat and get dirty regardless. The brunette explains that even though she's a girl and he's a boy, isn't she afraid he might take advantage of her? But Luna tells him that if he were that kind of person, he would have done something to her when she was weak or unconscious, making the former brunette think that Luna isn't as bad as she seems, but he'll still keep an eye on her to see if she has any ulterior motives. The wolf, with his tail, made her go back into the water and not do anything strange. Luna laughed, noticing how shy he was about things that embarrassed him or that he'd never done anything like that with any girl. But she also saw that he was a gentleman since he didn't look at her in a lewd way or anything like that and instead scolded her for doing something so sudden. So after Issei gave Luna away and went out with Knight to hunt for something to eat near the river, like fish, so he wouldn't have to be in the situation he was in earlier. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.